is now the most unrealistic aspect of the comic books universe, acknowledging that enjoying the adventures of a superhero that can fly, lift cars over his head, and shoot beams of light out of his eyes requires some suspension of disbelief. Longtime readers said even the comic's most exciting stories are regularly ruined by the implausibility of a thriving daily newspaper, whose advertising revenue and circulation numbers have not at all been threatened by a media landscape overtaken by laptops, smartphones, and aggregation websites.
Look, I could play along with Superman using his breath to freeze a volcano or clapping his hands together to cause some sort of sonic boom, but seeing images of a thriving Daily Planet newsroom not facing layoffs or dwindling home subscriptions just really takes me out of the story. No one in Metropolis has realized they could get news online faster and for free?
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. You can call in with whatever is on your mind. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Lori?
And Riley.
I don't know why maybe the music is louder than normal. Yeah, that's what it is, because they had to mess with the music. And so I thought that I was muted because I couldn't really hear myself there, but it's Free Talk Live. And the number you can call to bring up whatever's on your mind is 603-283-6160.
It's Bitcoin Pizza Day today.
Oh, yeah. How was the Bitcoin Pizza Day meetup you went to,
So
Riley?
I went to the Bitcoin Pizza Day meetup at Little Zoe's Pizza. It's a local pizza restaurant, and they do take cryptocurrency. I was able to pay with Bitcoin Cash today, which is really nice. Bitcoin Cash is a fork of the original Bitcoin due to some world war. I don't know if it's a world war, but a war of people who are nerds about cryptocurrency. They were having a nerd war in 2017 and about block sizes and things like that I don't fully understand. So yeah, I don't know. But it was nice to pay in Bitcoin Cash today and be able to pay with crypto to buy a pizza and hang out with like-minded people and talk about, Bitcoin stuff and things like that.
It's important to remember that the whole idea behind Bitcoin Pizza Day is that Bitcoin is meant to be spent. That's what you're celebrating on Bitcoin Pizza Day,
right,
is that somebody bought pizza with Bitcoin before there was, anything like AnyPay or anything that made it easier to spend money.
And from what I understand, it wasn't done directly through a pay merchant or anything like that.
Right, that's what I was going to say. He gave it to somebody, and then that person paid for cash with it, but it was like all they had back then.
Yeah.
And before that, everything was just either like buying drugs on the internet or whatever, through the dark web, or it was just holding Bitcoin. And that's not the reason Bitcoin came into existence. It's not just to be digital gold. And that's, speaking of that schism you were talking about, the people who stuck with Bitcoin Classic, they just want it to be digital gold, number go up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just want the numbers to go up, the value of it to go up, and they don't look at it as a useful technology for spending, which I disagree with. I think it's a very useful technology to spend. In fact, I think everyone should be spending cryptocurrency. Get yourself away from the fiat dollar. It's not useful. It's not helpful. It's going down in value.
And the other thing about it is it really is like people sometimes give the criticism that Bitcoin is just a pyramid scheme, and it kind of is a pyramid scheme if you are in it just for bringing more people into it to make the number go up.
Right.
That's not the point. It doesn't matter if Bitcoin was worth $1. If it was worth $1, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, but it's worth 70,000 times that. But the reason it doesn't matter if it wasn't worth that much and if it was worth only $1 is because all it is to be spending your value, but instead of
going through a third party like PayPal or Venmo or things like that, or a bank.
Or letting a bank be the one in charge of your money and hold your money and decide if you can spend it.
Yep.
Without having to ask for anybody's permission to send it. Sometimes I send Bitcoin and I'm like, wow, that's it? It's over. I sent that much money. It's not like the next 3 days I'm going to have to see if it went through. No, like that person will get it in the next 10 minutes for sure. It's cool.
It is really cool. It's really exciting. We live in a marvelous age when technology exists that we can have peer-to-peer electronic cash systems that we can send money to someone across the world, and they're going to get that money that we sent them.
And that's the other thing about it. It's better than I think it's better than just holding on to gold, because you can't send gold easily across the world. Like if it goes through any customs, it's going to get probably stolen.
Right.
Yeah, and it's much harder to, carry a large amount of gold around and then break it up into little pieces if you need to.
Yep.
Or silver.
Or silver.
I know I do also love gold, but I just think...
me too. I love precious metals. I like gold. I like silver. I just think that having a digital peer-to-peer cash payment system is much more efficient than gold or silver.
Yep, and if it was only $1, maybe you could say it wasn't a hedge against inflation. So it's good that the price is higher than $1. And I just think Bitcoin's my favorite hedge against inflation.
Right.
Gold is also just really cool. And there are some people who are just going to be anti-crypto and therefore won't trade with you in crypto. So it's good to have a mixture of things. But yeah, that's what Bitcoin Pizza Day is. Do you remember what year it was? Did anyone say that today? Like what year it was?
I don't know if anyone said it, but I think it was 2011, I want to say.
Okay, cool. I only didn't go today because I went to Little Zoe's Pizza in Keene, New Hampshire 2 days ago. Also, I just have a lot of packing and stuff to do. Riley was outside today and you saw me cleaning my car, which, oh my God, it's hot out today and I decided to vacuum my car. So.
Yeah, it's a warm day here in Keene, New Hampshire. And by warm, I'm talking 87 degrees.
Yeah.
Was it? I thought it was supposed to be 90.
Well, it was close to that, but
It's
I
too
come
hot.
from the desert, and 90 degrees is a nice early spring day, maybe mid-May day. So I mean, the temperature is warm, but it wasn't overly hot. But with the humidity, it makes it a little
Yeah,
worse.
it's humid here. It's more humid than it has been even, and it is hot for New Hampshire, so I was feeling it. I was sweating, but I considered it a workout. It was great.
Yeah, anything over 85 in New Hampshire is unbearable,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
And like in San Antonio where I lived last, it's always hotter than that, basically. Not literally year round, but at least by this time this year, it's always hotter than that. And it's more humid and disgusting. It just gets really old. So one thing I like about New Hampshire is like at least the humidity fluctuates. Like sometimes it'll be summer and you'll be like, it's not even humid today. When you're in the shade, it feels nice. Oh, I love days like that.
I almost forgot about that in Texas. When we went through Texas, it was the middle of summer. We didn't have any air conditioning.
Terrible.
And it
that
was
sounds
the
awful.
worst.
I bet.
It was like 104 degrees and just wet. Like the air was so wet, you felt like you were suffocating.
Maybe some places in the West. I haven't really been to that many places in West Texas. Maybe it's dry over there. I know it's dry in El Paso. I've had to go through there a lot. But in East to Central Texas, it's so freaking humid all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
you get
gross.
a break from that in the winter, but then it's cold. So what's the point?
Yeah.
I just love desert weather where it's like it can be hot, but it's not humid. It's so great. But sometimes you get it here in New Hampshire. And now we're just talking about the weather. But yeah, it was a really hot day today. Well, a thing that's going all over the country is inflation. And you should be thinking about local small businesses whenever you think of inflation. Wall Street Journal might have a different reason for saying that, but I just say because inflation hurts small businesses harder than it hurts Walmart or any other giant corporations with, lots of money and government protections.
Well,
So-
Walmart can handle the brunt of the effects of increased money supplies from governments because they're a bigger corporation, and when more money is flooding the market and more people have more money to throw at things, which is what inflation is. It's the inflation of it's the money supply being inflated essentially, and with more money chasing the same amount, or even in this case, fewer goods because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the price of goods goes up, and Walmart can handle that much better than some place like Little Zoe's Pizza or something like that.
Well, and they're buying, millions of units of something, so they're getting a bulk discount on things when you don't need that at a little tiny store.
In fact, that would be really bad.
Yeah.
But this Wall Street Journal article says, why is inflation so stubborn? Ask local small business. Many operations, squeezed by higher costs, say they plan to keep raising prices. And it's just like, none of that is wrong, but I get this vibe, like they're purposely misleading people who read this, like, oh, so it's them. It's the small businesses that are just raising the prices.
Yeah, and small print, paid for by Walmart. This article.
That's funny.
And it's just like, they literally have to be the one to change the sticker price on the sticker, but they have to change the prices because of the cost of doing business, which is mentioned there, but, most people don't think about things. They just kind of hear something and then
they just read headlines and then they move on. Most people.
That's very true. It says aluminum and cardboard keep getting more expensive. So do health insurance and wages. Small business owners say these are just a few of the reasons they plan to raise prices again this year. They said, it says, Reed Baker, president of Supergraphics, a commercial printer in Seattle, says, we have death by 1,000 paper cuts. Kind of good pun, because he's a printer. The 50-person firm routinely updates its software so that increases in the cost of materials can be incorporated into new estimates as quickly as possible. Management also has begun uncomfortable conversations with customers about boosting overhead and labor charges to reflect higher operating costs, which is like in blue. So that just is proof of what I'm saying, that people don't understand what that even means. They could read it and not understand what it means. It literally costs more for a business to stay in business. So that's why they have to spend more. And why does it cost more? Because the federal government and this entity outside of the federal government called the Federal Reserve have been printing money and making inflation happen. So it's not that businesses are greedy. Of course, there's literally a possibility of a business to be greedy. That's not what we're seeing with this across the board. All prices are going up of almost everything. One thing that I learned recently from Jay Noon, that the prices are sometimes going down so low that he's never seen it this low, is power tools and like things that only somebody who's working needs, which makes a lot of sense if you think about the fact that fewer people are working.
That actually does make a lot of sense, that when fewer people work and there's not a high demand for things, the prices of those things go down.
Well, there are not that many people that have skilled trade work, anymore. Everybody's focused on the tech sectors.
I don't know if this is still the case. Like, it could have changed by now, because this was like months ago that he said this to me, but he said he got a chainsaw at such a discount, or not even discounts, just what it was priced at. He was just like shocked by how cheap this chainsaw was, like compared to even years before. I was like, oh, you know what? That actually does make a lot of sense. And just other things, like just consider something. I don't know, because I don't do that kind of work, but something that you only need for some kind of skilled labor job. He said right now is like usually the time to get that kind of stuff. And you would think that stuff is like expensive, and it usually is. But right now, fewer people want to work, and there's a job called a social media influencer. So why would somebody want to go cut down trees when they could, post what they're eating for breakfast on Snapchat or
Half
TikTok?
of them don't even do that. I see videos now where people are just watching other people's videos and like making faces about someone else's content. Like, so that's their new content. Oh, it's so insufferable.
It sounds like it. Like, I mean, it's really easy for people to get on Snapchat or TikTok and make videos, but at the same time, influencers are so short-lived. Like, you're never going to see an influencer be around in 10 years.
I don't know if you could say that about all of them. There are definitely some that have been around for 10 years, but the, like, big, huge buzz about them usually doesn't stick around.
Yeah.
They've got to cash in on it early, and they're smart if they do. I definitely see that. And one thing I've noticed sometimes is, like, there will be a social media influencer who wants to be a singer or actress, which is probably just like an oversaturated market. and they never end up doing it. And I'm like, doesn't she call herself an actress? Why isn't she like in movies? And I realized it's probably just because like she became an influencer. So like, why would they want to cast her? Like people are going to see it and be like, oh, that's so-and-so.
Yeah.
That just seems like they played themselves, but they're probably rich. So it's probably fine. And the other thing is a lot of times I hear that they're actually all broke, and I just don't know what the proof is behind that. So
I don't either.
I don't know. I know that monetizing your content makes a ridiculous amount of money for not doing anything. I hear these social media influencers sit there and talk about how their jobs are so hard. It's so hard creating content. How hard can it be to take some pictures?
It can be hard to come up with ideas, but
but they're not. Most of them are not doing that, not coming up with ideas. They're like taking videos of their yard and then running it through a filter and being like, look at my beautiful garden. Like it's all filtered and fake.
TikTok makes video editing so easy too.
They have an automatic filter. You can't even take it off on TikTok.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Wow, that sucks. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
But I was like, my dad called me and said, hey, I was thinking of doing like a family cookbook, but I don't have time for that. And I was thinking, what if we just all share like a YouTube channel and just like make our own videos and post it to there until it becomes a thing? Not like for other people to see, but for us to see. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that sounds like a good idea, but I suggest we do it on TikTok. And he was like, I don't want to do it on. I was like, it's not because I love TikTok. I don't even have it downloaded on my phone right now. It's just because it is so easy to edit on there. Like, I was like, is this going to be really complicated? Because I'm basically a boomer and I'm trying to do it. And I was like, wow, it's so intuitive and just it's what you would think you're supposed to do. With video editing on Vegas Pro, which is Ian's thing he uses, and he uses it so quickly. Like, it's so easy. It's so complicated. It's just too powerful. There's too many things it could do. Yeah. So learning it as a complete beginner is like so hard. In fact, I do get so frustrated sometimes just like making a video for Ian and then like I mess something up and I save it messed up and then I have to restart. I'll take like weeks to put something out because I can't believe I messed up so bad and I quit for days.
See, like actual content creation like that is one thing where you're creating the content and editing it and like coming up with all the ideas. But most of these like viral TikTok videos are, you know, people doing trends that everyone else is doing the same exact idea and they're just doing it in a different way, or lip syncing to something, or like, you know, they're just silly nothings. And people are like, it's so hard.
Lip singing to something.
Yes.
Just so annoying.
Mm-hmm. And they're never on time properly either. Like they're always like a nanosecond off. So it looks weird.
I just don't understand that at all. It's just like, I think I'm really pretty. Here's me. I don't have anything to say, so here's me singing a song. And you can't even hear me sing a song, like a talent.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, because they all think they're like the main character of the world. And but there can only, you know, there can't be that many main characters in the world.
Social media gives opportunity for people to be the main characters in the drama.
Mm-hmm. They get validated and their narcissism gets fed. And then so it's like a cycle.
Sometimes I just see... it's not like I don't want to like, it's like there's a balance because I don't want to be like, people can't dress a certain way in public because it annoys me even like the way that even just, I feel like it's like that a bit in New Hampshire just because it's like a small town. It's like if you're dressed too nice sometimes, it's like everybody's looking at you like, where'd she think she's going? And it's not like it's not like
somewhere
it's just so
better
nice.
than you.
It's so hard to explain. Like if you have like a little bit of cleavage, like I just like don't ever do that at all. And it just is because there have been too many times where I've just got this vibe like this is a family event and like stared at, and I hate that so much. But also, I see some people sometimes that are like dressed like fishnets, and it's not even like about being showing too much cleavage or something like that. It's about like being outlandish, like, and it's usually the college students. And all I could think every time is like, that's so cringe. It's like, they really think like you're saying, like they're the main character and they're going to walk down the street and people are going to think like, wow. And it's just like, no one's thinking
and
that.
Nobody cares. Like, I don't even remember that person's face 10 minutes later.
It's just, I only remember in a way that is cringe. You know?
Like I'll remember like, oh, they were wearing a really weird outfit or like they had this weird thing going on, but I don't remember like the person. Nothing about them leaves an impression on me other than cringy.
Yeah, that's a good point. And plus, like, they don't actually know you. The other thing about it is just sometimes I think about people who think that their clothing options are their personality. Like, I'm goth. And it's just like, is there anything else about you? And what about you is goth? oh, the way you dress. So it's just like a choice. Like, it's not a personality. Oh, that gets really old. But that's a bit off topic. I think that that's all because I said that people aren't working, and a lot of them that are, they're working as social media influencers or just something like that didn't exist 20 years ago. And that's one reason that people are having a hard time finding employees, which is also going to make running a small business hard. I happen to know somebody that runs a small business, and every time they've went to hire for the last 3 years, I guess, that I've been here, 3.5 years that I've been here in New Hampshire, it's like really, really hard. There's some people that work for one day and then like ghost them, which is crazy. Wow. It's like I would just tell them, hey, I can't work there. Like, it's not hard.
Right.
I don't understand ghosting an employer. Now you can never go to that convenience store in a small town you live in.
Right.
Like, or just like run into those people in Walmart. It's so crazy how bad some people are at just like confrontation. I mean, I've done it where I got a job and then suddenly got a much better job, and then I just call them and tell them I can't work there anymore.
Yeah. What are they going to do to you? Like nothing. Yeah. They're going to be like, okay.
Like, oh, that really sucks. And that there's like probably no way that, they're going to convince you to stay, but you just tell them that there's no way that you're going to convince me to stay. Have a nice day. It's better than somebody is sitting there waiting for you to show up to work and you don't show up. That's just like so mean. So yeah, it's really hard out there for small businesses right now. This guy Baker, the owner of that printing place in Seattle, says, I almost feel like it's a momentum thing in the marketplace. His company makes large signs used in retail displays and corporate branding. Oh, okay, I was just thinking like Xerox, I guess. He says, someone else is doing it. I need to do it to keep up. I don't know what he means there. Someone else is doing it, raising his... I don't know what that means, because...
Other people are raising their prices, and so he has to too,
that
I guess.
Must be it. That's a little weird. If you could swing it when you want your prices to be lower.
Yeah, and then you'd get more customers.
Yeah, that I don't understand. And maybe he's saying in, like, the marketplace above him, like the place he buys things from, he's assuming that that's what they're doing. Like, that must be why the prices are raising. I don't know. So it says the cost pressures squeezing small businesses and their need to pass along those higher charges help explain why inflation has been so stubborn. The Federal Reserve this month highlighted a lack of further progress toward bringing inflation down and said it was holding interest rates at their highest level in 2 decades. And honestly, I don't understand the whole thing behind when the Fed raises and lowers interest rates. I know that they can be artificially low, and that can cause really bad things, like the 2008
So, from what
crash.
I understand, the interest rate is what it costs to borrow money, of course. And when interest rates are low, it's the money is cheap. The money is really cheap. It's cheap to borrow, cheap to get access to, but the interest rates are really high, then the money's really expensive to get. And people are like, I don't know if I want to go into debt for that much money, if that makes any sense.
Yep, that's why the 2008 crash happened, because too many people had loans that couldn't actually pay it. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join today.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson. The United Kingdom will hold a snap general election on the 4th of July. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced on Wednesday. Standing in the pouring rain on Downing Street, Sunak said it is the time for Britain to choose its future.
Earlier today, I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament. The King has granted this request.
In response to the announcement, opposition leader Keir Starmer promised to stop the chaos, saying the UK has the chance to change for the better. His Labour Party is running about 20 percentage points ahead in the polls. Ollie Barrett has more from London.
We got a sense in those words outside Downing Street of what this election campaign is going to look like. He will point back to what he sees as his successes in government, going back to the furlough scheme when he was finance minister during the COVID-19 pandemic. He'll say that the economic plan is working. He'll ask voters whether they can trust Labour on the economy, on defence, on healthcare and on issues like that. The Labour Party, on the other hand, will say it's time for change, that on healthcare and the economy and other issues the government has failed. But the election campaign is underway. We understand that Rishi Sunak, as soon as Thursday, will be heading up and down the country, and we expect the same from Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, and other party leaders too.
In other news, the families of those killed in the Uvalde school shooting in the US state of Texas are suing the state police over its response to the rampage that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Officers waited 77 minutes before taking down the gunman. The families also say they've reached a $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, nearly 2 years after the tragic mass shooting. Tony Waterman has more.
Nearly 100 state troopers are targeted in the lawsuit, in which the families say officers failed to follow their training. The former principal and former school police chief are also named. Earlier this year, the Justice Department released a scathing report of the incident, detailing what it called cascading failures of leadership, decision-making, and training, and said lives could have been saved if police acted faster. None of the nearly 400 officers who responded have been held accountable. As part of a separate $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, the families will have access to more mental health services, and local police officers will receive enhanced training.
And police are investigating the source of the ketamine that killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. The Los Angeles Police Department says it's working with the Drug Enforcement Administration and the U.S. Postal Service to look into how and why Perry ended up with so much of the drug in his system. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live, and Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency made for spending. You can pay your bills with Dash at spritz.finance. Plus, they can send dollars to your bank if you still need those for some reason. Thanks to Dash, the Dash DAO, for sending us 32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and use Dash. You can learn more at dash.org. That's dash.org. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori,
and Riley.
And in last segment, we were talking about, it's all I really wanted to read from that article from the Wall Street Journal, but we were talking about the fact that small businesses have to increase their prices because of inflation. And inflation is not just, the definition of inflation isn't small businesses raising their prices. No, it's an inflation in the money supply that causes all these things, including prices raising at stores that you go to, small businesses or otherwise. And the fact that it's just hard out there for small businesses right now because of inflation. So one thing I definitely would like to say is, like, don't get mad at small businesses for high prices right now, because that would be a mean thing to do. And it is a call-in talk radio show, so I'm going to go to your phone calls and thoughts. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
It's the backdoor daddy, the prince of prolapse, the evolutionary capitalist, young skeet.
Are you just trying to be gross?
Where did you get your economic degree from?
Are you just trying to be gross?
Well, I said I'm the backdoor daddy, as in I don't like the
I'm just going to not
cryptos.
have a conversation with you if you're just going to say, like, oh, you can't talk about something if you don't have an economics degree. That's so stupid.
That's like a logical fallacy right there, brother.
But where did you get your economic degree from? Khan Academy?
Okay,
I read Economics of One lesson by I read Economics of One lesson by Henry Hazlitt. So that's where I get my economics.
The thing about it is, it's just not that complicated.
Yeah, it's really not.
It's so funny that people think, like, you have to go get a degree to understand something, to talk about it. That's you that's that stupid. Sorry, it's not me.
To do anything.
I also read Economics in One lesson by Henry Hazlitt.
I'd recommend that book, absolutely. It's a really short read. It'll take you about 3 or 4 hours to get through it if you really want to power through it. And it's just short. It's absolutely FCCing short. You can get through it in just a short while, and Henry Hazlitt explains the various lessons of economics. He talks about the broken window fallacy. He talks about how prices work and things like that. Now, he might be an Austrian economist, which is... Austrian economics is a little different than, Keynesian economics, which is what everyone thinks is real economics. But Austrian economics is much better than Keynesian economics. It makes a lot more sense because, every time an Austrian economist talks about what's going on in the economy, their rationale makes a lot more sense than the Keynesian economists because they understand economics better, in my opinion.
I agree. And you wouldn't have an opinion like that if you didn't understand economics at all, because you didn't go to school specifically for that. It's just such a dumb conversation. It's like, people can go to school to learn, like, sewing, but you can also teach yourself it at home. People understand that.
It's just silly to think that you need a degree to talk about anything, that you can't self-educate yourself. So everything that everyone has an opinion on, they have to have a degree, according to Skeeter.
Yeah. They have to have some magical authority about.
Yeah. It's just a self-own, like, just showing that you think you're too stupid to be able to do that. And the thing I wanted to talk about next, which is really interesting, and Riley told me about it on the last break, this from The Guardian says that Julian Assange wins his right to appeal against extradition to the U.S. So Julian Assange, he is the founder of WikiLeaks, and he is an Australian citizen who is getting in trouble from the U.S., trying to get extradited to the U.S. under charges of things like treason, which makes no sense when he
is not a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, so they're saying that he, by leaking some documents about the United States, should be, in prison over here, or at least, like, stand trial. And it's absolutely ridiculous. He's being held in a UK prison right now, and he basically requested to be able to appeal the decision that he get extradited to the United States, and he won that right. So that doesn't mean that he's appealed it yet. That's the next step. But it's really good news that they're not just saying, no, you can't appeal it, you're going.
That's crazy that you even have to ask if you can appeal something.
Yeah, it's really weird.
May I have permission to challenge this thing?
Yeah, it is a little weird. Like, it should be automatic in the court system to be able to appeal your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It is the UK. I feel like they're, like, really not free over there. And already, just for it being the UK, I started reading a little bit of this article, and it's like there's some things that must be, like, legal terms in their country that make no sense to me here. Like, it says Julian Assange has been granted leave to mount a fresh appeal against his extradition to the U.S. on charges of leaking military secrets. And what does that mean, that he's been granted leave? That he gets to leave prison for a while?
No, it's basically means that, like, when the British say you've been granted leave, it's basically saying you've been given permission, in effect.
Okay, I've never heard that, so I was thinking it was like a legal term, meaning he, I don't know, got to maybe leave prison for a while to mount his defense.
No, he doesn't get to leave prison. This guy, the governments of the world want to lock him up in a cage because he revealed their secrets. And of course, you can't reveal the secrets of tyrants. They can't have that.
Yeah, and it's just like my dad was saying this today. He was just saying the idea that the government has secrets is absolutely ridiculous. Like black budgets, things like that. It shouldn't be happening.
If you don't have anything to hide, government,
you have nothing to fear, right? Right?
They would say, like, we're
no,
trying to keep
of course.
you
We're
safe,
going to make you so afraid of us, government. Oh, wait. No, the government wants us to be afraid of them, not the other way around.
And the other thing about it is they would say that they're trying to keep us safe, but they don't keep us safe really at all. So,
No.
I mean, like, they don't keep us safe from themselves. Like, my house has been raided by a Chinese military man.
Nope. Wasn't raided by the Chinese military. It wasn't raided by the Russian military either, or the Ukrainian military. It was raided by the United States government.
Even just like the town cops are scarier to me than the Chinese military.
I mean, I need to correct myself. It wasn't the United States government. It was the so-called United States government. It was just people with a bunch of titles.
Yeah.
Also, what do things like spying on me protect me from?
Yeah.
Myself?
Yeah. Such a good point. They have like an entire giant branches of bureaucracies that are sitting around doing nothing but pencil pushing all day to put people in prison. So I don't really feel like they're keeping us very safe.
They aren't.
So it says 2 judges had deferred a decision in March on whether Assange, who is trying to avoid being prosecuted in the U.S. on espionage charges, that's what it's called. I was thinking treason. It's not that, but
espionage.
But still similar. It says he's being prosecuted in the U.S. He's trying to avoid being prosecuted in the U.S. on espionage charges relating to the publication of thousands of classified and diplomatic documents. And it could take his case to another appeal hearing. Oh, I see. They deferred that decision on whether he could take his case to another appeal hearing. On that occasion, Dame Victoria Sharp and Mr. Justice Johnson, they call themselves Dame and Mr. Justice? What the heck?
It's weird.
Ruled he would be able to bring an appeal against extradition on 3 grounds unless satisfactory assurances were given by the U.S. The assurances requested were that he would be permitted to rely on the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, which protects freedom of speech, that he would not be prejudiced at trial due to his nationality, and that the death penalty would not be imposed. Oh my God. Was that even ever on the table? That is crazy.
If it was, that's a ridiculous thing to kill somebody over. Leaking government documents should be a murder, a capital offense to kill somebody over.
Because espionage means you're a spy.
It's terrifying.
So
that is terrifying.
Yeah.
There were gasps of relief from his wife and supporters at the High Court in London on Monday, as judges granted Assange leave to challenge this extradition on the grounds of whether removal would be compatible with the right to freedom of expression under the European Convention on Human Rights, regarded as having the functional equivalent of the U.S. First Amendment, and on the grounds that he might be prejudiced at his trial or punished by reason of his nationality. The judges accepted there was an arguable case that he could be discriminated against after being told that a U.S. prosecutor had said the First Amendment does not apply to foreigners when it came to national security issues, which is crazy because I've heard that I have heard that as far as the rights given to people under the Constitution, I hate even saying it like that, but it's how you end up saying it. The rights are given to you by God, but they are, or the fact that you're human, in my opinion, is God. And so, but the rights that are supposedly granted to you by the Bill of Rights are supposed to apply as soon as you're touching United States soil. It doesn't matter if you're actually a citizen of somewhere else.
I would agree with you. I don't think the so-called Bill of Rights should just apply to quote-unquote citizens. I think the Bill of Rights, unless they're referring to specific parts of the United States or whatever, apply to everybody, regardless of where they are on the silly planet we call Earth.
And
yeah, it doesn't even make sense to argue otherwise, because then you're saying, well, because these people live here on this piece of land, they're somehow better than other people and deserve to be treated more like humans.
So all of those things make total sense to me, but I'm even saying one step more ridiculous, that once they step on United States soil, then it's supposed to apply to them, which is weird because it's like, oh, I step here, it doesn't apply to me. I step here, it does apply to me.
Yeah.
It's weird and stupid. But I have heard, according to their own rules, that like if an immigrant from South America or something who's not a United States citizen here, quote, illegally, is here, then, well, they can't be just, oh, you don't have any rights here in this country. No, it's like all the First Amendment would apply to them, the Second Amendment, everything else, except obviously if you're in a state that restricts those rights for no good reason, like there are states that don't let people have the freedom to have guns without permission, at least.
Yep.
But, you know, it's crazy that a prosecutor said that the First Amendment doesn't apply to Julian Assange because he's a foreigner. The judges accepted that there was an arguable case that he could be discriminated against. Okay, sorry, we already said that. It does not apply to foreigners when it came to national security issues. They're always saying that, like, the rules change as soon as they're bringing the argument. It's national security.
It's for the security of the motherland.
Yeah, it's just like so
We
stupid.
can't have anyone attacking the motherland, can we?
Yeah, it's just fear. Like, oh, you want to be safe, don't you?
It's absolute fear. It's fear-mongering at its finest, and this is what politicians do. They lie to you. They make you afraid to extort all your emotions because this is what they do, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. and Mrs. America, if you think your politicians out there are going to keep you safe from anyone, they're lying to you.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that people fall for it, so that's how they get away with it.
I mean,
they do think that the politicians are going to keep them safe. That's why we have the Patriot Act and why everything's all insane.
This is an election year, and every politician is going to claim, oh, we're just here to keep you safe. We just want to serve the American people. No, they don't. They want to serve themselves. They want to serve the system. They don't want to serve you. They don't care about you. They want to serve the system. And the system, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely broken. Broken.
I don't think it's broken.
You don't think it's broken?
No, I think it was made this way.
Oh.
Yeah, that's part of the design.
You might be right about that.
Especially like the justice system.
The so-called justice system? Yeah. I agree with you on that.
So it says Assange's team did not contest an assurance by the U.S. that the death penalty would not be sought, accepting it was an unambiguous executive promise. I don't know.
They're saying they won't agree that the death penalty won't be sought?
No, they didn't contest it.
Oh.
So they're not arguing against that. Why would he even say that, though? Why would they argue? It says, but they argued that the situation was different in relation to any assurance that the Australian-born publisher could seek the same First Amendment protections on free speech as a U.S. citizen. Edward Fitzgerald, KC, representing Assange, said problems surrounding the assurances by the U.S. were multifold. How do you say that? Multifold?
Multifold.
Multifold. And they did not rule out the possibility of a U.S. court ruling that the WikiLeaks founder, as a foreigner, was not entitled to First Amendment rights. The assurance was not that Assange could rely on First Amendment rights, but merely that he can seek to raise them, said Fitzgerald. Oh, well, yeah, I'm glad that he is getting the chance to, try not to ever get here. One more shot at getting extradited at all. And that is not I wouldn't be very satisfied if that was all they said to me, like, oh, you can seek to raise First Amendment rights issues.
Yeah, they're like, come here first, and then you can be like, can you please treat me like a person? And then we'll be like, no.
That is crazy. Imagine thinking that people in other countries just don't have the right to freedom of speech if you're leaking documents about your group being the U.S. government in this case, but it's just a group of people.
Yep.
So what kind of terrible things happened to our nation from the things that he leaked?
That's such a good point. Like, it's already been a decade or more.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't think anything bad has happened.
We're all still like here and nothing happened. So how is this a threat? So how is this a threat to national security? If that was a threat, shouldn't we all be injured in some way?
Yeah.
Like the nation be injured?
The Chinese military is outside on the streets.
But Russia interfered with the election.
It's just a bunch of... Every time I hear about the country being unsafe, I just think, then why don't you arm people?
Yeah. I mean, it'd be the logical response is arm people, but No one wants to do things logically. They want to do things with feels and emotions and trust these so-called leaders to take care of them. It's what everyone does. They want to trust the so-called leaders rather than trusting their own intuition.
That's not even the logical move. It's like the move that it was supposed to be. That was how it was supposed to be designed, was a well-armed militia.
I agree. And there are people that will say, oh, that's not what it means, but I have only ever seen people make good arguments in the direction that it did mean that, at least when it was written, which is how you're supposed to read the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they didn't write it for the future. They wrote it for the time they lived in.
Yeah. And there was some president, I don't remember which one, that even, argued about that. They were like, we need to make this as plain as possible because in the future, the, meaning of words could change and people could think it means something else. So they tried to write it as obvious as possible. And that was their attempt at doing it. And there's still people, I don't think people misunderstand it as much today as people twist it for their own means or gains or whatever. So Assange's barrister also pointed to what he described as the deafening silence from U.S. prosecutors, including Gordon Kromberg, an assistant U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, where Assange would stand trial. He said specific promises from prosecutors are pretty common. We will not object to bail. We will not seek the death penalty as in this case. Wait, what? Oh, he's giving examples. We will not object to bail. We will not seek the death penalty. No such specific assurances have been given here. I thought that they did say that about the death penalty, but I don't know. I'm confused about that.
I think they were mentioning the death penalty in something regarding Julian Assange, hoping that he could appeal if the United States wasn't going to pursue the death penalty.
Those assurances were what were requested.
Yes.
So, but I was thinking that is what the U.S. already said that they would do. But
no, they didn't say that.
So it says, James Lewis Casey, representing the U.S., said the judges should not be beguiled by the attractive and simplistic approach taken by Assange's legal team. Assange's nationality would not prejudice a fair hearing in the U.S., he said, but the conduct of which he was accused was not protected under the First Amendment. That's just what it says.
Yeah.
That's just, and what I'm saying is, that's not a quote, that's just what the article says, so it sounds like somebody's opinion. It says, I don't know who's saying this. Is this James Lewis KC representing the U.S.? He says, the position of the U.S. prosecutor is that no one, neither U.S. citizen nor foreign citizens, are entitled to rely on the First Amendment in relation to publication of illegally obtained national defense information, giving the names of innocent sources, the government, to their grave and imminent risk of harm. And it's like what you guys are saying. At this point, even if you could make that argument a decade ago whenever it first came out, at this point, it's nothing but trying to get revenge because he embarrassed them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
that's pretty much true.
Their grave and imminent risk of harm. I'm pretty sure imminent doesn't cover a decade later and nothing has happened.
Yeah.
It says this principle applies equally to U.S. citizens and non-U.S. citizens, irrespective of their nationality or place of birth, and irrespective of where the conduct took place, though it is ultimately a question of law for the U.S. courts. The conduct in question is simply unprotected by the First Amendment. Assange was not in court for health reasons, which is really sad. Apparently he's doing really bad in there.
Mm-hmm.
His legal team said, but those present included his wife Stella and his father John Shipton. It's really that is just making me question things. Why wouldn't he want to be in court, see his wife? I don't know. He must be either really sick or they're hurting him there. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I hear Belmarsh Prison is not a good place to be.
They probably were like, oh, you're sick. I'm sure he would want to go, but they probably were like, you're too sick to go. You have to stay here.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, they're still afraid of a disease over there.
People are here too. It's really frustrating.
Well, I think as a punishment, a punitive measure, making him stay there, miss the court where he could see his wife and stuff.
I see all these signs when I go to visit Ian that say if you may be sick or have a cold, please stay home. So right now the lilacs have sprung and it's just really, I have allergies right now. So last time I visited Ian, I was just don't sniffle, don't please don't have to cough
Yeah.
or anything like that, because I don't want them to be like, you seem sick, you gotta leave. I don't know.
When did you last see Ian?
Just like this week. I visited him on Mondays, so the last Monday that happened.
Nice.
Arya is gonna be able to come get her cats tomorrow, so that's a really good update for the people. I'm pretty sure the listeners, maybe you've missed an episode or something, you know that Arya is out of prison and just waiting to get out of the halfway house tomorrow. So, and I only bring up the cats because I also went in, deep cleaned their stuff, so I have more allergies. So yeah, it's just
Sounds
a
like
really
the storm.
bad allergy time.
Sounds like
yeah,
the perfect storm.
right. It's like when it rains, it always pours. Doesn't just like one thing happen. No, it all happens at once. And I was just bringing that up because I was thinking about not wanting to get kicked out of visiting Ian. The guards there are so much worse in the prison than at the jail. Even at the jail, they just kind of like don't care. They just kind of are quiet. They're not. But at the prison, sometimes it seems like they get off on like controlling you. Like
Of
you can't
course they
just
do.
leave.
They're federal prison guards.
You can't just leave. You don't just, and I'm not saying this is their fault, but you can tell that they are just like into it. Like if you don't want to leave now, then it's gonna be 30 more minutes. Like our hands are tied. We gotta do it this way, and they're just like a-holes. I don't know. They're always like screaming at the freaking crowd of people. Not like yelling at you, but announcing something. But it's just like Jesus, like every time, because they just like start yelling. It's just like you're a bunch of pigs or something.
Yeah.
And then like going in, they're like, can't have this. They're just talking really briskly to you. And then the first time I ever visited, there's a front desk guy, and then there's the person who brings you back there who's like a guard. And the front desk guy asked the lady like, do you want to just take her, pointing at me since I was done like filling paperwork out, or do you want to wait for her? And it's like this old lady with a walker who's like never been there and like putting on her glasses trying to see the paperwork to fill it out, and she's just like, no, you can have a seat, we can wait. And it was just like, oh my god, I waited like 30 extra minutes. It's just like 30 extra minutes I didn't see Ian,
right?
Because this lady was, I can see it, I'm not an idiot, I can see it in her face, she was like being a bitch. But one thing I can say is that the other visitors are just a better group of people, like older people, nice people. And it's not even just that they're older, they're just like nice, and they're not just like crackhead baby mamas for the most part.
Yeah.
603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. That's 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible, and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their Chainlocks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at Dash.org. Big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit Dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson. The United Kingdom will hold a snap general election on the 4th of July. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced on Wednesday. Standing in the pouring rain on Downing Street, Sunak said it is the time for Britain to choose its future.
Earlier today, I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament. The King has granted this request.
In response to the announcement, opposition leader Keir Starmer promised to stop the chaos, saying the UK has the chance to change for the better. His Labour Party is running about 20 percentage points ahead in the polls. Ollie Barrett has more from London.
We got a sense in those words outside Downing Street of what this election campaign is going to look like. He will point back to what he sees as his successes in government, going back to the furlough scheme when he was finance minister during the COVID-19 pandemic. He'll say that the economic plan is working. He'll ask voters whether they can trust Labour on the economy, on defence, on healthcare and on issues like that. The Labour Party, on the other hand, will say it's time for change, that on healthcare and the economy and other issues the government has failed. But the election campaign is underway. We understand that Rishi Sunak, as soon as Thursday, will be heading up and down the country, and we expect the same from Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, and other party leaders too.
In other news, the families of those killed in the Uvalde school shooting in the US state of Texas are suing the state police over its response to the rampage that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Officers waited 77 minutes before taking down the gunman. The families also say they have reached a $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, nearly 2 years after the tragic mass shooting. Tony Waterman has more.
Nearly 100 state troopers are targeted in the lawsuit, in which the families say officers failed to follow their training. The former principal and former school police chief are also named. Earlier this year, the Justice Department released a scathing report of the incident, detailing what it called cascading failures of leadership, decision-making, and training, and said lives could have been saved if police acted faster. None of the nearly 400 officers who responded have been held accountable. As part of a separate $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, the families will have access to more mental health services, and local police officers will receive enhanced training.
And police are investigating the source of the ketamine that killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. The Los Angeles Police Department says it's working with the Drug Enforcement Administration and the US Postal Service to look into how and why Perry ended up with so much of the drug in his system. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking again today at the state visit to the United States by Kenyan President William Ruto. It's a big deal. He's the first African head of state to be afforded the honour in 16 years, and his visit comes at a time when the US has allowed itself to go into retreat in Africa, just as China is expanding its influence there. Kenya participates in China's Belt and Road Development Initiative, but speaking in Atlanta on Monday, President Ruto made it clear that he believes America must deepen its engagement with countries like Kenya.
We now run the escalating risk of democracy and free markets being associated with poverty and suffering. I believe the United States of America has a historic opportunity to lead the free world in dealing with this economic situation and give meaning to democracy and free market economy worldwide, including in Kenya and many other developing countries.
Kenya is about to send 2,500 police on a United Nations mission to Haiti, where drugs gangs have overwhelmed the country's government. President Ruto is expected to press President Biden to provide guarantees that if those Kenyans deployed in Haiti are themselves overrun, the US will support efforts to assist them. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, the United Kingdom will hold a general election on the 4th of July, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced on Wednesday. The families of those killed in the Uvalde school shooting in the U.S. state of Texas are suing the state police over its response to the massacre. And police are investigating the source of the ketamine that killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. That's the latest feature story news. Sally Patterson reporting.
In local news, 23-year-old graffiti artist Adam Zane has captured the heart of 19-year-old college sophomore Jessica Tisselow. Zane, who goes by the graffiti handle Slice, met Tisselow last summer at an annoyingly self-aware dive bar where the talentless artist caught Tisselow's eye with his cliched sleeve tattoos of trite Japanese imagery and the fact that he was wearing a winter hat indoors in the middle of June.
His art is really just the absolute worst. I think we're going to get married someday.
And now for This Week in Tech, brought to you by LG. An excited groom sends text messages to his buddies during his bride's vows, and a collection of VHS tapes are held onto for one more year. In other news, a burglar makes sure to crack the glass on a family portrait before leaving. There's nothing in the employee handbook about groping dead co-workers, an employee says, and a report finds that nobody's heard from David Blaine in a while, so somebody should probably check to see if he died in one of those things. Mere seconds have passed, yet we feel as though we've known you 1,000 lifetimes. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
You control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by Forkfest, happening June 13th through the 16th at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Forkfest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Forkfest is decentralized, so there is no ticket cost, and no one is in charge. For more information and to connect with other attendees, you can visit the unofficial website, forkfest.party. That's forkfest.party. And on the show tonight, you've got me, Bonnie, Lori, and Riley. And let's go straight into your phone calls and thoughts. We have Gigi from South Carolina on the line. Gigi, what's on your mind?
Good evening, everybody. And greetings to you, Mrs. Freeman. Good to hear your voice.
Oh, thank you. What's on your mind tonight,
I
Gigi?
finally obtained Ian's new and current address. I started writing to him, and I look forward, as does my husband, Jeffrey, to receiving a letter from him. We miss hearing from him very much.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure it's going to be nice to hopefully hear from him.
It will be. Yes, absolutely.
I didn't realize you hadn't gotten one this whole time.
Pardon me?
Oh, I just didn't realize that you hadn't been talking to him this whole time. He's been in prison. I'm glad.
The new facility in Massachusetts.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been a good month since we got a letter from him. You know me, the Jewish mother of Charleston. I'm having withdrawals. Thank heavens you're giggling. Excuse me for coughing in your ear. I have two reasons for calling this evening. I would like to express my personal opinion, and all callers listening nationwide and all the co-hosts are, of course, free to disagree. That is the beauty and the essence of this program, which I adore. Number one, I think that the families of the city of I hope I pronounce it properly, Uvalde in Texas, who 19 families lost 19 children and 2 families lost 2 educators. They settled out of court for $2 million. That is a lousy, lousy amount of money. And in exchange, no police officer, no state trooper, not the principal, not the chief of police. Nobody has to take any responsibility or accountability. What the hell is $2 million for all those lives lost?
It's definitely a pittance for sure. I mean,
You got that right. I agree with you 800 twofold. My next opinion I would like to express, please. I am deeply concerned about the country of South Africa. I personally have a lot of family in many cities throughout South Africa. I do not feel comfortable politically, nor socially, nor personally with South Africa pushing at the International Court of Justice to levy genocide against Israel and Netanyahu. And I have a question. I used to be a professor of international relations. I was a great professor. I was a passionate professor, and I take pride in saying that about myself. I would like to know, how come there has been such an increase in anti-Semitic incidents of vandalism, violence against buildings, property, and people in South Africa? And the question of the day is, since the African National Congress put Mandela into office, has their objective politically and economically, and I may include socially, have their objectives been truly and thoroughly met to satisfy the majority of black people throughout the country of South Africa? I don't think so.
Well, I don't know much about South African politics as far as what you mean about Mandela, but one thing I can say is that I do remember hearing about the South African. It seems a little random, like why this specific country, but the South African government is asking the International Court of Justice to bring charges against Israel because they're claiming that what Israel is doing in Gaza is genocide. And just to explain that to the listeners, that's what she's referring to. I don't know if there's been more than one, like that it got denied and then they appealed it. Something like that seems like what Gigi is saying. But in my opinion, it does seem like it fits the standard of genocide. I mean, they're not killing someone who did one person that did one bad thing. They're killing an entire group of people because some people did a thing. I don't
disagree with that at all. But I just find it ironic that the African National Congress on a domestic level has not met their objectives for the average black person in South Africa since they took control when President Mandela was inaugurated as president after apartheid for many, many years. So why are they going internationally when they have their own domestic affairs to take care of?
I don't understand either, Gigi. Maybe someone does have an opinion on this. Maybe it's because they're like other politicians. They want to focus on someone else's home rather than their own home first.
I see what you're saying, like maybe just like a log in their eye and a splinter in their neighbor's eye type thing.
Yep.
But I don't know. I don't really know if this is like a good way to go about it or a good like it's something that's going to cause great things to happen. Just, the International Court of Justice, I think it is, said that you're doing genocide. Will that do anything to Israel? Will they have to pay a fine? I don't know if it's like the biggest deal ever, if they get found guilty, or that it's going to be like a really good thing, or what, what do they quote unquote win if they win their side? I really don't know. Do you know, Gigi?
Hello?
Do you know what happens if they get found guilty in this court? Since it's like a very strange one to me. I've never.
Yes, they are convicted of the crime of genocide, and there's an arrest warrant put out for the individual. But first, he needs to be picked up, so to speak, outside of Israel He ain't going to travel outside the border of Israel for a long time, honey. You know that.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing about your first topic, and thank you for the call, Gigi. The first topic I do want to explain, so if anybody like listening doesn't know the history of this, in Uvalde, Texas, there was a shooting by, I think, an 18-year-old at an elementary school. And while it was going on, it went on for a very long time, I don't know, like over an hour. Parents were trying to break through cops, pushing them back and holding them down to get inside and save their children. And the cops are just standing around, and the parents were freaking out, obviously. Like, I don't care, just let me go in there. Risk their own lives because these dumb, lazy, cowardly cops were not doing it. And
that's what cops are. They're dumb, lazy cowards.
There's even videos from the inside where cops are just like
well,
looking
maybe
at their
not
phones.
all of them, but there are cops that are dumb and lazy.
And obviously all of the ones in Uvalde are. They did all kinds of things that they shouldn't have done. Like there was like this one story, and it's been a little while now, so I'm not going to remember all the details correctly, but somebody who could have, like a sheriff or something, was like, hey, let me call in border control, I can get us back up, and the Uvalde cops are like, no. Just like they stopped people who wanted to help, like including the parents, and a bunch of kids died, and a bunch of kids were trapped in a room with a killer for over an hour because the cops were just like at a standstill. They're like, hey, we don't know what to do next. And
yeah, it's like if you wanted a bunch of kids to be shot, that you couldn't have planned it better.
Yeah.
The response that the cops had. Like they did literally more. No, they didn't do nothing. They did more than nothing. They stopped those kids from being possibly saved.
Right.
Yeah. Parents could have done a better job at being police that day.
The idea that the cops just settled out of court for $2 million is so disgusting.
Yeah, well, and because none of the cops are paying that $2 million.
Right, that's
the police
true.
department is not paying that $2 million. Uvalde, is that the name of the town? I assume,
Yep.
is paying the $2 million, which means it's coming out of the tax money that the people in that town paid in. And so the people of the town are being punished for something they didn't do.
And that's the problem with taxation, is it's extortion. And when it's collective extortion, the people of Uvalde are now responsible for the $2 million that the Uvalde Police Department has been sued for.
And 19 children and 2 teachers were killed that day in May 2022.
Yeah.
I mean, their lives are worth a little more than that. So it's just like, it's two things. It's like a really disgustingly small amount of money, and also the cops personally aren't, like, oh, I got to do some overtime to make up for this or anything like that. No.
Yeah, I'm sure they're all still cops too.
Yeah, they just like got moved around.
Yeah.
I've seen stories about that since.
Yeah, they got
it happened.
promotions probably.
It's really, really gross. I hate that story a lot, and
yeah,
it's really sad. And
it's a
that's
huge
ridiculous.
tragedy. Like, think about how many lives could have been saved if the parents were able to go into the school or the police actually did something. But when seconds count, police are minutes away.
It's a very good point. One thing where somebody took control of their own business instead of letting
before
the
we
cops
move on,
do it.
Before we move on, I do want to mention that something Gigi said.
Okay.
I do want to touch on something real quick. So I don't know why anti-Semitism is seeming to rise worldwide. I'm guessing it's in response to the way Israel is responding to the Palestinians in Gaza. But at the same time, it's still, I don't think anti-Semitism is a good look for people. It just looks terrible. It looks like a horrible idea. Don't be anti-groups of people. Be anti-individual in their behavior. Let's not be anti-Semites. Let's not be anti-Palestinians.
I've seen a lot of things call people being like, hey, maybe you should not genocide a whole country.
Yeah.
Calling that anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Which that's not.
It's not. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people who are claiming the anti-Semitism is rising are bringing up stuff like that. But then there are also, there totally are, like, groups of college students who are so getting off on being on the right side because they love Palestine all of a sudden and they know what it is all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And they're, like, chanting stuff like death to Israel and stuff like that. And it's just like,
Yeah.
obviously, like, neither side is cool. It's not
Right.
cool.
It's definitely not cool to be on either side of this whole crazy conflict. Both sides are evil. Both sides don't really care about liberty for the other side. It's just gross.
That happens in every political conflict, though. Like, people who don't actually care, they virtue signal, and they take it way to the extreme of, like, being the exact same thing that you are saying you're against.
Right.
But, like, a mirror image.
Like, racism in general. Like, that's kind of what's going on here. It's just like the people in Israel, not saying every single one, but tons of them, and the government talk about the Palestinians like they're just like subhuman, and they're just like a worse race than them. And then, you're being racist against the Jews in response to that. That's so stupid. Like, don't you have a principle, which your principle is don't be racist and judge people on their individuality? No, they're just wanting to choose the side that's correct this time, politically correct this time, so they can, like, get likes on a Facebook page.
I have a lot of problems with the way I've seen things happening with how they're fighting the war. Like, I think a lot of this stuff is war crimes. I think it's war crimes.
Yeah.
And like, I saw a flyer that they had Israel put out, condemning certain people for being associated with Palestinian terror groups. And there was like a 3-year-old kid on there, and like, little kids, like pictures of little kids, and saying that these kids are connected to terror groups in Palestine. Like, that's a toddler.
Yeah.
That kid's not doing anything to you.
I hadn't seen anything like that. It's crazy.
It's just more, it's to dehumanize them. If you think that all of them, children, women, everyone is your enemy, then it becomes okay in your eyes to bomb them.
I realize there are a lot of people in our listening audience that may believe that Israel is God's chosen people, and we need to be on the right side of this war because Israel's God's chosen people.
Well, then why doesn't he fix it?
Yeah, why doesn't he? I agree with that, Lori. Why doesn't he come down and fix this war instead of having the Israeli military pretend to be the biggest bad people on the planet? It's ridiculous.
If God chose these people, then he can save them.
I just don't think that God would. Well, the thing is, like, there's nothing for them to be saved from anymore. Like, that's the thing. The threat is over. The threat is over, and people are still getting killed.
But Palestine is the threat, Bonnie. We got to save them from the Palestinians.
It's just like self-defense means stopping someone from harming you or your property or someone that you're defending, and nothing else. It doesn't mean going and killing people who might be connected to the person who harmed you a year ago. That isn't self-defense. It's just way past self-defense at this point.
Yeah, it's culture war now, where they just want to exterminate.
Oh, we have the excuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got our foot in the door. Let's just take it all the way now.
And it's been in plans for a very long time by Netanyahu. Like, there was this video of Netanyahu giving a speech, like a presentation somewhere, and he's showing his plans where he wants to make a canal, and he's like, and it's going to go right here, and in the map he's showing, Israel is colored in as all of Israel and Gaza, and the canal goes through, I forget which one it is. It's not the West Bank, it's the other one, but it's Gaza. So clearly he wants that to not exist.
Yeah, I'm
People
sure
live there.
I'm sure that the government was thrilled when they had a reason to start.
Right.
Of course they were.
They were like, oh, finally, we got a chance.
And that's even if they didn't completely orchestrate it themselves, which I don't put past any government. This isn't Israel specific. I don't put that past any government because it's happened a million times.
Yeah.
And then they rewrite the history books.
Oh, the government would never do that.
It's just so stupid to think that a group of criminals wouldn't do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They would. And even if they didn't, who cares? It's not like I know the truth. Like, it's not like I have firsthand knowledge of the truth of it.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't, they're using this excuse now to exterminate a group of people, and it's obviously wrong.
Yeah, it's like, so if you came to my house and broke in to my house and stole $500, it would then be like me coming to your house and taking your car and burning your house down and, wiping your bank account clean.
Killing
like,
my family.
Assuming your identity.
My family is associated with me, so you kill them.
Just everything. Just
Kill
take your whole entire life. like everything, destroy your whole life because you came in and stole $500 from me.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous how these wars have just escalated because people want to choose violence and pretend to be on the right side because God or whatever.
Yeah, it's not self-defense at this point.
And it's just like, it's so sad that it even has to be said. Obviously, we on Free Talk Live also condemn Hamas doing terror attacks against the Jews.
Of course we do. It's
obvious. Like,
it's obvious.
because we have principles.
But you have to say it because then people are going to be like, oh, how dare you?
Exactly.
How dare you
have
not
to say it.
fully support one side and not the other side?
Yeah.
Like, I don't support either side in war.
Well, I don't know what Sarah's opinions on that are because she mostly just cares about Albuquerque, New Mexico. But Sarah, in New Mexico, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yes, I just wanted to bring up that, when I was in Texas, that people the Uber driver told me that people got vouchers to ride the Uber to go to the grocery store and back. So
where did the vouchers come from?
Vouchers, it comes from the government, I think. It's like a subsidized, like a federal funding.
This is El Paso
like
or San Antonio? You had told us before, but...
Yeah, El Paso. Yeah, that's what the Uber driver told me, that she drove somebody to the grocery store and she went to pick them up. But we don't do that here, not in New Mexico. I mean, they have the Uber for medical transport.
It's probably like some part of welfare where you get some kind of transportation vouchers. I don't know what the word for welfare is now that they use, the welfare office. I'm sure you go there and like they give you transportation vouchers for groceries as part of like
Dang, I need to get
SNAP
myself some vouchers or something.
But that's what Sarah is upset that her welfare isn't good enough in Albuquerque.
Well, the thing is, I never heard about it. So they were actually talking about giving taxi vouchers to a pharmacy. There's a neighborhood where they have so much shoplifting, they have to close down all the CVS's, Walgreens. Nobody wants to open stores. They all get wiped out with the thieves. So they have to take the buses like 3 miles away or something, or 2 buses. And then people are wanting taxi vouchers for that. Or what if they need a medication after 7 o'clock on Sunday, and then the bus quit running at 5 here?
I mean, the people on the welfare are probably the biggest ones stealing, so it's kind of self-inflicted wound.
I mean, if you need a prescription after 5 o'clock, then you probably should have planned better to get it the day before.
Or ask a family member to help you with that.
Because like if you get checked out of the hospital and you need medication that day, they're going to give you the medication before you leave, enough to get you until you get to the pharmacy.
And I have actually been in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in a CVS there in 2018, and it was so like, it was like, there was one step away from like cops walking around because they're so worried about people stealing. There was like employees walking all around. Most things were locked up. There was like a constant, we were just like, what is this all about? There was constant the employees talking to each other over the intercom, like, we need you to go over there. Like, they're seeing someone look like they're gonna steal. They tell the employee to go stand in that aisle. And they were like super suspicious of my ID when I was 21. I probably like was 22, so I probably looked like 6 or something. But I mean, I was 22, so I probably did.
Is that because you're so
young,
short?
But I'm just short, and a lot of people tell me I look young. Like, at this point, I'm 27. Maybe I don't look like under 21, but I definitely just have always looked younger than I am. So they were all weird about it. Sarah, I don't know. I would tell you to ask your government to do it, because that's like the only, like, calling into the radio show won't get it for you. But I kind of don't want you to ask your government to do it. I really doubt these welfare people who feel so entitled to a ride to the grocery store are going to even tip the Uber drivers. So I don't know. I hope they at least get paid enough to do it.
Yeah, I hope so too.
603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. That's 603-283-6160.
Pushed to the breaking point after constantly being taken to task without ever hearing a word of thanks for what it does around here, an overwhelmed and infuriated nation announced in February that it was trying, okay? Jesus Christ. A poll of the American populace revealed that 33% felt they were doing pretty damned well, thank you, while another 28% just wanted 2 freaking minutes without somebody breathing down their neck.
We're trying as hard as we can here. How about cutting some little slack for a change, huh? You know what? This is just bullshit. I do not need this shit.
Christ Almighty, sources added. God distanced himself from the entire right-wing fundamentalist Christian movement, saying that he did not believe pregnancies result from his divine will. The Almighty Father went on to dismiss capital punishment, gun rights, the anti-abortion movement, and the efforts of the Westboro Baptist Church, while adding that he and Christian conservatives, quote, no longer saw eye to eye on the majority of issues. And physicists discovered that the entirety of our known universe is actually the fictional setting of a cop show called Hard Case.
This is the Onion News Network.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson. The United Kingdom will hold a snap general election on the 4th of July. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced on Wednesday. Standing in the pouring rain on Downing Street, Sunak said it is the time for Britain to choose its future.
Earlier today, I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament. The King has granted this request.
In response to the announcement, opposition leader Keir Starmer promised to stop the chaos, saying the UK has the chance to change for the better. His Labour Party is running about 20 percentage points ahead in the polls. Ollie Barrett has more from London.
We got a sense in those words outside Downing Street of what this election campaign is going to look like. He will point back to what he sees as his successes in government, going back to the furlough scheme when he was finance minister during the COVID-19 pandemic. He'll say that the economic plan is working. He'll ask voters whether they can trust Labour on the economy, on defence, on healthcare and on issues like that. The Labour Party, on the other hand, will say it's time for change, that on healthcare and the economy and other issues the government has failed. But the election campaign is underway. We understand that Rishi Sunak, as soon as Thursday, will be heading up and down the country, and we expect the same from Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, and other party leaders too.
In other news, the families of those killed in the Uvalde school shooting in the US state of Texas are suing the state police over its response to the rampage that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Officers waited 77 minutes before taking down the gunman. The families also say they have reached a $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, nearly 2 years after the tragic mass shooting. Tony Waterman has more.
Nearly 100 state troopers are targeted in the lawsuit, in which the families say officers failed to follow their training. The former principal and former school police chief are also named. Earlier this year, the Justice Department released a scathing report of the incident, detailing what it called cascading failures of leadership, decision-making, and training, and said lives could have been saved if police acted faster. None of the nearly 400 officers who responded have been held accountable. As part of a separate $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, the families will have access to more mental health services, and local police officers will receive enhanced training.
And police are investigating the source of the ketamine that killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. The Los Angeles Police Department says it's working with the Drug Enforcement Administration and the US Postal Service to look into how and why Perry ended up with so much of the drug in his system. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And Ellen Blanchard is a silver level amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Ellen gives at least $5 a month to Free Talk Live via our AMPS program. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Supporting Free Talk Live. And if you would like to learn how you can become an amplifier and get the perks and benefits of being an amplifier, you can go to amps.freetalklive.com. That's amps.freetalklive.com to learn more. With you on the show tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Lori.
And Riley.
And you can call 603-283-6160 to bring up whatever's on your mind, like David from New Mexico did. David, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hey, Bonnie. It's your baby daddy. How you doing?
No, it's not. Why?
Oh, that's right. I'm
You guys say this now.
dyslexic. It's your daddy, baby.
Oh, okay. Well, no, wait, no.
No, that one either. Oh, hey, you know what? So when I say, hey, Bonnie, it's almost identical to when my bunny rabbit comes up to the door and wants to go for a walk, and I say, hey, Bunny, and hey, Bunny, hey, Bonnie, hey, Bunny.
I think that David and Skeeter are in a competition to see who can be cringiest whenever they first call in.
I'm winning.
Do you like being cringy, David?
Hell yeah, I'm winning. You can't top baby daddy, Skeeter.
Oh my God. I wonder if he even listens after his call.
No,
or even before his call.
He and Sarah are out to dinner. They just both make their calls and then they head out to dinner together.
That's funny.
Well, what's on your mind tonight, David? Bunnies?
No. Gigi's call. But to finish up on the bunny, my bunny's about to show up. He'll show up for his walk or her walk. I don't know what it is. Any moment. You know how people will take their dogs for a walk, or some people even take their cat for a walk. Take their dog for a walk when they get home from work just before sunset.
Yeah.
Well, I do that with my bunny. He comes up to the door and looks at me, and then I go out, and then we go for a walk.
Oh, that is so cool.
That is pretty cool.
David has a weird connection with animals. I'm not calling it weird, but like a unexplained connection with animals.
My baby mama, the actual real baby mama from hell, she used to call me Dr. Doolittle.
I've never seen the movie Dr. Doolittle. Does he have a connection with animals or?
Just a little bit.
Sorry, I didn't get the reference. Well,
well, you got to watch the movie and then you'll understand.
What do you have to say
It's not that good of a movie, so you probably shouldn't.
That's the thing. Like, I don't understand most movie references. People tell me I got to see this one. I watch that one. Then they're saying, oh, you got to see this one. It's just never going to end.
Yeah.
So what did you have to say about what Gigi called in about the Uvalde it's actually Uvalde, and I really hate Uvalde. That's just like a ugly way to say it.
Yeah, no.
And wait, what'd you say?
The the pronunciation you say is Uvalde?
Yeah, it's Uvalde. That's my friend from Texas, like my best friend. Her last name is Ugalde, and that's her family from San Antonio's last name. Like, that's like where her family's from. They're not like from Mexico originally. No, they're like from this land that's San Antonio. And then this man from Spain, named something Ugalde, came to Texas around San Antonio, and they named a city right next to it. For whatever reason, they named it Uvalde instead of Ugalde, but it's named after him. And now the people who live in Texas now pronounce it, like the mostly white people in Texas, they pronounce it Uvalde, like they say Bulverde. And I hate it. It's just like, why? Why can't you just say a word right? It's not like I'm like, oh, you have to like roll an R. It's so easy to say Uvalde.
How do you know the war that's going on over in Europe? How do you say the name of that country?
Ukraine.
It's not Ukraine, and it's not Uvalde, Bonnie. It's Ukraine.
But the thing is, like, it is just a name of a city. We can say it right. It's in the United States, and the people who live there would have said it like that. The people over there would say it like that, but we in America say it differently. That's fine. This happened in the United States. It was a language people were speaking here. It's so silly. It's just like, if we all moved to Ukraine and just started calling it Ukraine, like, well, we'd be like laughed at and told we were wrong. The other thing is, it's just so easy. I understand you disagree.
Well, but I can explain why I disagree. Because if Uvalde, you have English and Spanish involved. And Ukraine, you have English and Ukrainian involved. So it's actually the same thing, because just because Uvalde is in the United States, if the proper pronunciation is Uvalde, but English-speaking Americans say Uvalde, it's just
it's not the G, the V thing. It's calling it Bulverde. They call it Bulverde, and Uvalde they call it Uvalde, and it's just like there's no reason for that. It's not something that we do in English. It's not something like my last name is my old last name. My maiden last name is Cruz, Kruse. We don't say Cruzy. That's not a thing. We don't say Free Talk Live. Like, it's just not right. It's just like a mistake that got ingrained into people to say. With the Ukraine thing, it's just because we're here and we pronounce it differently. This happened here. It was pronounced correctly, and now a mistake is being pervaded, and that is stupid. That's like the dumbing down of the United States.
Well, wait a minute. Where is the mistake? On the U versus U, or on the V versus B?
See, I don't know why the V and G thing happened. I don't know if that was a mistake or why it got changed. The mistake is the A-E sound.
I think it's just like uber white people can't say those things, like how they say tortilla.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
It definitely is, because there's a place, I can't remember which one it is right now, that has the double L in Texas. It's because it wasn't near where I lived, but
Amarillo.
Well,
Yellow.
Okay.
Amarillo.
Oh yeah, that's a really good
Amarillo.
one. Yeah, that's a really good one. I've always said Amarillo.
Yeah.
So I hadn't really thought about that, but there's a different one that's so much more obvious. I didn't realize that that's Amarillo. Dang it.
Amarillo.
But, it's just like
maybe that too.
It's just that like it's almost like in your face. Like, I'm not going to say it your way. That's how I feel. That when you're saying Bulverde, you can't say verde when they ask you what kind of salsa you want. Do you say verde? No. Like, it's just like it's in your face.
They probably do, because they say tortilla. So
there used to be pronunciation explanations on Taco Bell's sign when Taco Bell first came out, including taco.
How do you say taco wrong?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Taco.
Yeah, I guess there are people that do that.
In the Midwest.
David, I actually want to know what your opinion is on this thing that Gigi brought up.
On South Africa, there's a, first of all, Gigi, you are doing what you accuse other people are doing. You are saying what you're saying for a political purpose, Gigi. Gigi is fighting for her team. She's fighting for the Jewish side and making arguments for the sake of building up the Jewish side, not because it's a logical argument, Gigi. And so there are a smattering of different things involved. One is that first of all, you have to, if you're going to talk about South Africa, you have to take the fact that the origin of South Africa was white people from Europe that colonized a vacant piece of Africa. And then tribes of native Africans came to their border 50 years after they created the nation, hundreds of years ago. And
I never knew that.
They ended up, pardon?
Oh, I just said, never knew that. I've never heard this story history.
Right. And so, but in modern times, the powers that be that are the same powers that be that help to increase immigration across our southern border, for instance. 30 years ago, they did the same thing with South Africa. There were something like 4 million, don't quote me on numbers, but something like 4 million white South Africans living in South Africa, and maybe a couple million black South Africans living legally in South Africa. And they flooded the border, South Africa's border, with Africans from other nations around Africa. And now the population, I believe, is something, like 3 million white South Africans and many millions outnumbering the white South Africans of black South Africans that are native to Africa. And that was done intentionally to take the country, I allege, and other people allege, to take the country of South Africa away from those white people and take it over once again by black people. And the powers that be that arranged for this to happen are a communist type power, or at least they use communism and communist tactics in order to make this happen. And you also then have to tie that immigration thing that has destroyed. Now, because Gigi is alleging that South Africa is essentially destroyed economically in the way that its people have to live, and it wasn't that way prior to that invasion across the border. It was a very well-kept country, and now it's not. But it's been destroyed in that manner. And we have that going on right now in America, but do not forget about, for the last decade and more, about the boat people and the regular people coming across without boats on the land from the Middle East, flooding into Europe as theoretically as refugees, when the real intent is to destroy what Europe was or is, and displace the white people that have been living there for hundreds or thousands of years, and have them displaced with non-white people that can be more easily controlled, with the end goal of all of this being one world government and domination of the entire world by these powers that be.
A question I have about the South Africa story is, why did no one live there prior to white people going in, like homesteading it, like you're saying? Why did nobody live there? Because isn't it like a very, like lush, like a place that can grow things, and it has, like the Cape, I forget which Cape it is. I was gonna say Cape Cod. Oh yeah, Cape Town. I was gonna say Cape Cod.
Yeah.
Why did nobody live there?
Well, my response to that, and experts might give you a different answer, but my response to that is that if you go back to that time period, which would have been, first of all, search the date that the Boers, the whites from Europe, landed there, which would have been something to the effect of, 400 years ago. They at that time there was only, now we have 8 billion people on the planet. Back then, I believe there was about 1 billion. And so there was, 8 times more unoccupied land in this world than there is now, because there was 1/8 the population. And the southernmost part of Africa, going there would be the most, other than the heat in the equatorial area, the going to the southern end of Africa is like going to the northern end of Europe, where it's colder in the winter. So since there was plenty of land for everybody, you would naturally migrate, since you were hunter-gatherers, you would naturally migrate to climes that required that you didn't have to bundle up in the wintertime.
Okay, well, I don't know. That makes sense. And by the way, I looked up, it says the Boers got there in 1652.
Right.
I never knew that history. So let me try to understand what you're saying about what Gigi was saying here. So Gigi was saying that South Africa should focus on their own problems as opposed to focusing on the war in Israel. And what you're saying is she is trying to use the problems in South Africa as like leverage because she is pro-Israel, and what you're saying is that the government of South Africa is doing things to their economy and such on purpose?
The answer is yes, and there's two parts. There are two main parts to that question. Number one, in my assessment, Gigi, you are stating what you're stating because South Africa called for the arrest of Netanyahu, who is Israeli, Jewish, then Gigi is criticizing South Africa. That's why she's doing it. But what the other part is that's more important is Gigi apparently is not aware, and she should be, that the powers that she is criticizing in South Africa that are negligent and or malicious regarding their people are the same powers that be that are starting and keeping the war in Israel going. It's the same people doing it, and frankly, go ahead.
Oh, I tend to agree with you that the governments all over the world are working together. I don't normally go with, whenever we're talking like, oh, could this be what's going on? Like theorizing what could be going on in the world, which isn't always a conspiracy theory, but that's what people will call it. But anyways, I'm always thinking, I think they're all working together. I don't think there's any way that like all this like political relations like outside of different countries are the real story and the whole story. I think that we don't know that they're all working together because things just work out in a way that looks too suspicious a lot of times. And also just because it's like, why has the average person become so much more civilized on the entire planet, but the governments are fighting all the time? I think that they're working together to keep constant fighting going on. Otherwise, the people wouldn't do it.
And I don't think people would hate others if it wasn't for propaganda.
Right.
There's no reason to hate someone else just for no good reason, but then they tell you the good reason that you're supposed to believe.
And the propaganda war spreads. I mean, think about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I mean, this conflict has been going on for thousands of years, and all because of someone claiming that God gave them a piece of land. It's like, dude, why can't you just grow a pair and work together?
Well, and then that is handed down from your parents. Your parents believed that, and so then you just grow up believing that, and you never challenge it, and then it just keeps continuing on and on, festering until everyone hates each other. Then they're easier to conquer.
And I have seen so much. I would just notice this the most since I'm white, but I've seen so much anti-white stuff on the internet recently, and it's just like I really believe that tons of it is bots and AI. I really believe that there are a lot of people pretending to be like a black person on Twitter saying really vile things about, and then real people like join in because they're like, we all think this. This is what we all think. And it's so ridiculous how easily controlled people are. And as far as like your parents probably thought that, one thing that is like I think is propaganda and it gets like pushed around, this argument that people bring up a lot where people are saying, it's just like an internet thing. So trying to explain to real life people what this internet thing, people will like make a video saying like, I always know that white people, as soon as like a black person is not in their house, they talk really racist, and they'll say that on the internet like it's a fact, and then there's like discourse around it as if it's a fact, and it's really stupid and ridiculous. And then from there, people live their life believing that as a fact. This is just one example, and it's not always just anti-white. It's like there's also anti-black racism on the internet too, and there's probably really similar things. Like somebody will read on the internet from a bot like, this one time this horrible thing happened. It was a black person that, and that it didn't really happen. And now just a person who read that on the internet is living their life as if it's reality. And now they have a reason to hate black people, and the black people have a reason to hate the white people. It's obviously good for the government for people to hate each other. And it is not good for the people themselves. Hate can never be good for you to be in your own heart at all. It's just not good for you.
It's not.
And then on top of that, if you ever want to rise above a controlling class, well, it's not going to be as easy if the people are fighting amongst each other and thinking they need the government to protect them from each other, which is what I think it's like so much on the internet, just on social media, where a lot of this propaganda gets done.
Well, and people are so drawn to tribalism. They pick their little tribe and then they stick with it, and everyone else is the enemy. But what they're getting wrong is that the tribes are not, black or white or over this imaginary line. It's the class lines. The overlords versus everybody else. That's the tribe you need to look at, and that's the tribe you need to belong to, is the everybody else fighting against the oppressive overlords.
Yeah, who wants to control your life? Does your neighbor who's a different race from you actually actively want to control your life? If they do, they probably only do through the arms of the government, like voting for things you don't want, or like using the city to come tell you to like take something out of your yard, blah, blah, blah. That's like the only way you're going to find somebody who wants to control your life. But the people who definitely want to control your life are politicians, etc. So that is how you can find the class. Who wants to control your life?
And those who want to control your life will do so using fear, various means of control. They'll threaten you by threatening your family or whatever. It's just ridiculous how they want to control you.
And violence.
Oh, yeah. Violence,
They'll put you in a cage. They'll beat you up, they'll take your property.
Well, David, I wish I knew more about the South Africa thing to really have a conversation about this. I honestly I've never been interested, so I've never looked up anything about South Africa specifically.
Well, you should at least go to like Wikipedia or something and read for 5-10 minutes, because what they use South Africa as a model as to how to take over this country and every other country in the world for that matter.
Well, is that all you had on your mind tonight?
It's not all, but it's enough.
Well, thank you for the call, David from New Mexico.
He's always entertaining.
Interesting rant there. A lot of it is, stuff that can't be proven, but it just makes sense. Like, a lot of the times you see people migrating in ways that just don't make any sense. Like, I just don't understand why, like, random Somalians are just, like, thrown into, what was it where there was a big problem with it? Like, a bunch of, like, Somalian men thrown into Ireland, and then they're, like, stabbing people. It's just, like, at least move people into, like, some place where they remotely would vibe with the culture. Like, if you can't even remotely vibe with the culture, if you're just, like, extremely uncivilized and you're going to Ireland and then there's huge problems, like, that's obviously, like, no one's better off. Like, they are probably better off in Somalia.
Perhaps it's a way to divide and conquer people, because if you can bring foreigners here and they're going to create problems, then they can say, oh, the foreigners are causing a lot of problems, we got to do something about it.
Right, or just whatever it is that they get out of that. Because ultimately, it's not just like Somalians were like, let's get on a boat, we built this boat, and we're going to Ireland. It's like they were placed there. And that's what the government does. They're like, we have this refugee, where do we place them? It's not a conspiracy theory. Like, that much is not a conspiracy theory. But it's just like, why? What goes on in your head to do that? It just doesn't make any sense. It's like, at least put people in a country that, like, remotely is like their culture, and not just, like, that they wouldn't match with at all. And I also just, like, suspect of just, like, how many, refugees there are on the planet. It's like these governments are causing wars with each other, and then there are people that need to get taken and put into another country all over the world. It's just like, I don't know. It's just kind of like, I hate to say that, like, it's not all of them, but it seems like there's so many that it's like, there's got to be something going on. I don't know. And the thing is, it's just my personal skepticism that it's really true that, like, whole entire countries full of people are going into other countries just because, like, they can't fix their problems in the country they came from. It's not even like that in, like, Texas with people coming from Mexico and, like, working. Like, I have seen that, and it's just like people come there and they're working. But, like, in, like, Europe, you always see people going there to live on welfare, and it's just like, how is that better than being wherever you came from and just, like, not joining, like, a warlord's underling, not becoming a warlord's underling? Just, I don't know. Or just, like, living in a country nearby you and actually, doing something. Like, in Europe, they all are on welfare. It doesn't really make any sense. It's like, you really want to do that? Like, leave a country and just go sit on welfare in Germany? I don't understand.
I don't understand it either.
603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. What do you think about all that? 603-283-6160.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. Freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson. The United Kingdom will hold a snap general election on the 4th of July. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced on Wednesday. Standing in the pouring rain on Downing Street, Sunak said it is the time for Britain to choose its future.
Earlier today, I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament. The King has granted this request.
In response to the announcement, opposition leader Keir Starmer promised to stop the chaos, saying the UK has the chance to change for the better. His Labour Party is running about 20 percentage points ahead in the polls. Ollie Barrett has more from London.
We got a sense in those words outside Downing Street of what this election campaign is going to look like. He will point back to what he sees as his successes in government, going back to the furlough scheme when he was finance minister during the COVID-19 pandemic. He'll say that the economic plan is working. He'll ask voters whether they can trust Labour on the economy, on defence, on healthcare and on issues like that. The Labour Party, on the other hand, will say it's time for change, that on healthcare and the economy and other issues the government has failed. But the election campaign is underway. We understand that Rishi Sunak, as soon as Thursday, will be heading up and down the country, and we expect the same from Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, and other party leaders too.
In other news, the families of those killed in the Uvalde school shooting in the U.S. state of Texas are suing the state police over its response to the rampage that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Officers waited 77 minutes before taking down the gunman. The families also say they have reached a $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, nearly 2 years after the tragic mass shooting. Tony Waterman has more.
Nearly 100 state troopers are targeted in the lawsuit, in which the families say officers failed to follow their training. The former principal and former school police chief are also named. Earlier this year, the Justice Department released a scathing report of the incident, detailing what it called cascading failures of leadership, decision-making, and training, and said lives could have been saved if police acted faster. None of the nearly 400 officers who responded have been held accountable. As part of a separate $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, the families will have access to more mental health services, and local police officers will receive enhanced training.
And police are investigating the source of the ketamine that killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. The Los Angeles Police Department says it's working with the Drug Enforcement Administration and the U.S. Postal Service to look into how and why Perry ended up with so much of the drug in his system. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking again today at the state visit to the United States by Kenyan President William Ruto. It's a big deal. He's the first African head of state to be afforded the honour in 16 years, and his visit comes at a time when the US has allowed itself to go into retreat in Africa, just as China is expanding its influence there. Kenya participates in China's Belt and Road Development Initiative, but speaking in Atlanta on Monday, President Ruto made it clear that he believes America must deepen its engagement with countries like Kenya.
We now run the escalating risk of democracy and free markets being associated with poverty and suffering. I believe the United States of America has a historic opportunity to lead the free world in dealing with this economic situation and give meaning to democracy and free market economy worldwide, including in Kenya and many other developing countries.
Kenya is about to send 2,500 police on a United Nations mission to Haiti, where drugs gangs have overwhelmed the country's government. President Ruto is expected to press President Biden to provide guarantees that if those Kenyans deployed in Haiti are themselves overrun, the US will support efforts to assist them. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, the United Kingdom will hold a general election on the 4th of July, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced on Wednesday. The families of those killed in the Uvalde school shooting in the US state of Texas are suing the state police over its response to the massacre. And police are investigating the source of the ketamine that killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. That's the latest feature story news. Sally Patterson reporting.
This is the Onion Week in Review. A Colorado man reminisced Monday about a simpler time when he only masturbated to still images on the internet. 36-year-old Timothy Barchuk, who now says he requires multiple streaming hardcore videos just to get excited, willfully reflected on the days of waiting for slowly loading images of naked women to appear.
Look at this picture of Phoebe Cates. Sure, you can pull it up in 2 seconds now. Back in the old days, you'd have to wait for it to materialize on your screen pixel by pixel. It's not about her tits, which are nice, but it's about waiting for them. Nowadays, you can pull up 8 different videos of anal sex at once. Who cares?
In local news, the person who will one day become the warlord ruler of what was once Nebraska is born in an Omaha hospital. And in other news, a man and woman get drunk and blow $30,000 in one night. A lonely college student calls up his mom to talk about Harold and Kumar, and another dead body is tossed on a heap somewhere. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the phone number. You control this talk radio show because you can call 603-283-6160 and bring up whatever is on your mind, as some of our callers already have tonight. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find unique collections of cool and funny Liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori,
and Riley.
And Lori, you had told me at the beginning of the show that there was an article you wanted to discuss, and I think it kind of relates to last Wednesday's show where we were saying, and somebody called in to argue with us about it too, that the cops have no duty to protect us, but it's the case. It's been ruled, and it is the case that they have no duty to protect the people that live around them that pay their salaries and such. So
I'd argue that they not only don't have a duty to, but that's not their primary function. They're revenue enforcers.
Yep, and control enforcers.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Attitude enforcers, propaganda arm. You know, they do things that the people who are in charge want a lot more than keeping you safe. They don't care about keeping you safe.
Right.
And this article says that even if it wasn't, even if it's something that they could do, stopping crime isn't the top thing that they do out of all the things that they do anyway.
That's right. This is from Reuters.com. Police are not primarily crime fighters, according to the data. A new report adds to a growing line of research showing that police departments don't solve serious or violent crimes with any regularity, and in fact spend very little time on crime control in contrast to popular narratives. The report was published October 25th by advocacy group Catalyst California and the ACLU of Southern California. It relies on county budgets, numbers, and new policing data provided under the state's Racial and Identity Profiling Act, which took effect in 2019. The law requires police to report demographic and other basic information about their work, including the duration of a stop and what actions were taken, like ordering someone out of a car.
What did you say that was 2014?
2019, it went into effect. Records provided by the Sheriff's Department in Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Diego, and Riverside show the same long-standing pattern of racial disparities in police stops throughout the country for decades. Black people in San Diego were more than twice as likely than white residents to be stopped by a sheriff's deputy, for example. More notably, researchers analyzed the data to show how officers spend their time, and the patterns that emerge tell a striking story about how policing actually works. Those results, too, comport with existing research showing that U.S. police spend much of their time conducting racially biased stops and searches of minority drivers, often without any reasonable suspicion rather than fighting crime.
Wow.
Overall, Sheriff Patrol officers spend significantly more time on officer-initiated stops, proactive policing in law enforcement parlance, than they do responding to community members' calls for help, according to the report. Research has shown that the practice is fundamentally ineffective public safety strategy. In 2019, 88% of the time LA County Sheriff's officers spent on stops was for officer-initiated stops rather than in response to calls.
So one thing that they've already brought up that really helps your point from the last segment, you were saying that the dividing lines shouldn't be, oh, I live in this country and you live in this country, or I'm this race and you're a different race than me. That's the dividing line. Well, this data says that overwhelmingly more minorities get pulled over by cops. And I looked it up in Los Angeles. It said Los Angeles and somewhere else, but I looked up just percentage of police black in Los Angeles. It says the percentage of Hispanic and black officers, this is from City of Los Angeles, LAPDpolice.com, .lacity.org. It says the percentage of Hispanic and black officers exceeds the percentage of black people who call the city home. So there is more black people in the, per the percentage of the entire LAPD than there is the percentage of, it says Hispanic and black here, so both of those together, more than they're in there. That's already like a huge percentage. So it's not like it's just like, oh, this stuff about black people getting pulled over more by cops than white people means that white people hate black people. No, it's literally class. It's these people think they're of a better class. These police officers, no matter what race they are, they think they're of a more important class than you and can harass you on your way to work because you're going 5 miles over the speed limit or whatever it is.
Well,
or whatever. It's like not even a reason. You just drove past and they were like, well, why are you here? That's suspicious.
When you get a special badge, for some reason, people think that suddenly these badge-carrying, costume-wearing people are suddenly special.
I feel like I saw some badges once that said that shiny badges don't give you special rights.
I actually have one.
I don't know if I have one right now, but a lot of our friends have these fake badges that are shiny.
No, they're real badges. They're
that's true.
Absolutely real.
That's a good point.
They're very shiny.
And they're very shiny, and they say shiny badges don't grant extra rights. And that's exactly the truth, because it is impossible to gain extra rights over your fellow humans. A police officer does not have rights that you have. Just because the government told them that they won't kill them for exercising certain rights, and they will kill you for exercising those rights, it doesn't mean that they actually have different rights than you. It's always the only thing that is right to do is what is not wrong. And what is wrong is to hurt somebody else, kill them, take their stuff, steal from them, hurt their property, damage them in some way. And everything else that you want to do is right. So they have the right to do it.
So they have extra wrongs then?
Pretty much.
Who does?
The police. They have extra wrongs granted to them.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. They're allowed extra to do those extra wrongs. Yeah, they can murder, and it's not murder because I had to make a rash decision. Sorry, I murdered that
scared.
guy. Well, not even sorry half the time. But we do have a caller on the line. It looks like an unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
In 1938, Field Marshal Hermann Goering and his wife had a baby, and she was christened Edda by Evangelical Church in Germany, Bishop Muller. evangelical church in Germany. By the way, and Adolf Hitler was the godfather. You can check this story out. Of course, in the United States nowadays, evangelical Christians are not pro-Hitler and pro-Nazi. They're pro-Trump and pro-Republican. But never mind that connection. The idea that people like Nazis, with all the evil that they've been documented to have done, could consider themselves Christian. Well, never mind the judgmental part of it. It's just it's important to note that some Nazis consider themselves Christian because that opens up an opportunity to fight back against the Nazi message of hate. It's called anti-Semitism, but that's a misnomer. That's the wrong name because not all Jews are Semites and not all Semites are Jews, and some Semites hate Jews, and to be anti-Semitic, they'd have to be anti themselves. So just the purpose of accuracy, I'm going to call Jew-hating bigots. That message of hate can be combated, and people can have a good, fun time doing it, feeling, our responsibility, because Jewish people can't exactly cite the New Testament when they're arguing, explaining stuff to Nazis, and even if they did, then the Nazis won't listen to Jewish people. But the pitch here is, watch what you say about Jews, because it's quite clear that Jesus is Jewish.
Yep.
I mean, to ask if Jesus is Jewish is as stupid as asking if the Pope Catholic. The old joke, is the Pope Catholic? Duh. Well, and not only that, but if you take a look at a couple of verses I'm going to bring up. John 14:6. He is the way, the truth, and the life, and nobody goes to the Father except by him. So watch what you say about Jews, because a Jew is going to decide whether you spend eternity in heaven or in hell. And unlike the district court, there's no appeal process, because not a problem, because he always gets it right. So that's one. And another one is 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 32, which says not to offend the Jews, the Gentiles, or the church of God. So, but the idea, watch what you say about, the idiots are spewing out all this ridiculous garbage about Jews. Well, guess what? Jesus is a Jew, and
I don't think that many Christians are doing this, so you'd have to believe this stuff about Jesus before. So I just don't really know who you're talking to. I'm not sure who you're addressing. Most Christians, I feel like, are definitely on the side of Israel in this, because they believe Jews are the chosen people. And you'd have to be a Christian to believe that you can't get to God except through Jesus. So I'm just not sure who you're arguing with. Definitely not us.
First of all, you tell that this would be the message that you would send to, not only to Nazis, but anybody who accepts the New Testament, whether they're Protestant or Catholic or Jehovah's Witness or Mormon or whatever, any denomination that includes the New Testament in their beliefs, and you explain to them, look, these Nazis are crazy. They don't even realize Jesus is Jewish. You preempt the Nazis' message of hate by blocking it before they even hear it, or before they get brainwashed into it, by saying, watch what you say about Jews, because a Jew is going to decide whether you go to heaven or hell.
All right. Well, according to those books that were written that one time, and Jesus never said that himself, so it's kind of just like, it's just so ridiculous to argue anything based on, well, somebody wrote this about this person. If somebody wrote down about me, you cannot get to heaven except through Bonnie. And people started saying, this says this says that. It would be really weird.
Which is wild that any political standing is based upon anyone's religion.
A religious book. Like, I'm going to say on the air that religion makes good people do bad things. And what I mean by that is religions have been used for centuries, if not millennia, to coerce good people or to convince good people to do bad things. Take, for instance, 1930s Germany with Adolf Hitler. A lot of people were Christian back then, and they justified killing the Jews for whatever reason, which is a horrible thing to do, in the name of a religion. And today, Christian bigotry goes for every Christian group out there. I mean, Mormons, Catholics, other Christians condemning each other. It's just ridiculous. Like, can you just stop the stupid war? Because religion coerces people to do bad things in the name of their religion, like murder, rape, theft, all sorts of things, just to make their God happy.
It's all just tribalism.
It is.
It's because people are uncomfortable with themselves. They don't think they can rely on themselves. And so they need their tribes. They need to find a tribe to glom onto, and so that they all stick together and fight the enemies, the made-up enemies in their own mind. The enemies aren't even real.
Yeah,
there's no
they're in your
reason to
head.
have these enemies.
Yeah.
One thing that makes me kind of sad too, like about that specific thing that he brought up about the chapter from John, or the verse from John, is that John is the newest of all the 4 New Testament Gospels, and before it was written, there was already a Thomas section of Christians. And I really like what they believed so much more. It was actually so much more inspiring, in my opinion, and nice. It was just that, like, all people are a part of God, and that light is in all people. And that's what they called it, that light was in all people. John is a reactionary book to those Thomas people. He was like, they're wrong. I'm going to write it like this. And he wrote about how Jesus is the light of the world, and if you want a piece of that light, you got to go through Jesus. And Jesus isn't, like, quoted anywhere saying that stuff. So it's just, like, that's what's so sad about it to me. It's just, like, I don't know. People will repeat something like it's a fact when even that person never said it. And Jesus said lots of cool things, too, so I really hate, like, having to argue against him. But it's just, like, imagine using just something is written down as an argument for something, especially when you're anti-laws. Like, that's the whole reason why we're anti-laws.
Yeah.
We do have a caller online. Dave Ridley in New Hampshire. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Ridley.
Hey, guys. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about AI.
Okay.
So I sometimes see things that it seems like no one else is seeing, or I pick up on things that other people are talking about, but most people don't know them. I mean, I'm kind of a poor man's Renaissance man. You know, I do a lot of listening, a lot of podcasts, a lot of just I'm just always consuming information about a lot of different things. But AI is one of my top interests. So although I'm not technically, an official expert, I think I have something to add to the debate of discussion. The first thing that almost everyone seems to be missing, this is not an idea I came up with by myself, but it's more Nick Bostrom's idea. He's a professor over at Oxford.
I'm wondering if, before you continue, if there's any way that the, like, rustling noise can stop, or is it wind?
Kind of block it from your microphone a little bit.
Yeah, let me, how does this? Is this better?
Yeah,
it's much better. Thanks.
Okay, good. So the thing that Bostrom noticed a while back was that artificial superintelligence is so powerful that although its very power does create a great danger, it's an existential risk for humanity. I can't pretend otherwise. But the thing is, it's so powerful, it actually would probably eliminate all the other existential risks, if that makes sense. So,
like war or something?
It could. It would be more useful against something like, asteroids hitting the Earth, or climate change, or nanotech or biotech gone out of control. If AI is developed before those things are developed, then that's possibly good, because it makes all of those, it takes all of those and keeps them from being a threat. Does that make sense?
But what about when it comes to the logical conclusion that humans are the greatest threat to the planet?
Or even to
Well, actually, that's actually not quite true. The sun is probably the greatest threat to the planet. Humans are the only, they're the only species currently capable of pushing technology in a way that saves the Earth from the natural fate that awaits it.
That's an interesting theory.
Well, my question about what you're bringing up is, would it be better for, regular existential threats to never happen if AI is enslaving us? So, like, the quality of life is terrible anyway. I'd rather an asteroid hit me.
No, yeah, in that case, it'd be better to face a regular existential threat.
Yeah.
But the problem is, eventually, whatever other threats we have to face first
AI will eventually be developed. So the idea is that it's better if it's developed before the other problems, because I mean it's either when it is developed, it's either going to be great or terrible. It's probably not going to be anywhere in between. And you're better off having that earlier than later. Well, for example, I mean, look how close we are to nuclear war right now. I mean, that it would be nice to have something kind of shake things up right now.
What do you think it could do? What do you think AI could do for nuclear war?
Well, you'd have to ask it, right? Like, I don't have the solution. I don't know exactly what needs to be done. I can give you some basic ideas. For example, a piece working out a negotiated settlement in Ukraine that addresses some of Russia's legitimate grievances and Ukraine's legitimate grievances. Doesn't seem like anyone's even trying to do that right now. If a super intelligence came on the scene in 3 years, which it might actually have something to say about that and could serve as a mediator. That's just one possible role that it could fulfill.
I mean, I just think it's a little like humans are still involved. Like, even if the AI wrote up the greatest peace deal of all time, like, the Ukrainians could still say, like, we don't want that. We want something else.
Yeah, or like, this is too fair.
Yeah,
the Ukrainians can easily say something like that to Russia or to England, but it's going to be much more difficult for them to say that to an AI superpower.
That is a good point. Like, to a third party that's supposedly, all-knowing or whatever. So do you really think that it's eminently possible that an AI super computer that's like as smart as all the humans on the planet and can actually, maybe like sentience isn't as important, but it actually functions well? Do you really think that's happening soon? Coming out soon?
Ray Kurzweil predicted that there would be a computer by 2029 which was as smart as a human, and it's like a sort of a general intelligence machine. He also predicted that it would take until about 2045 to get super intelligence. And Kurzweil is almost always right when he makes a prediction. He's got like an 87% accuracy rating or something like that over a 40-year period. He's like an inventor. But the thing is, he was probably wrong about 2045. He was probably too conservative, because once the first AGI is built, it will easily be able to reinstantiate itself or reiterate itself and make rapid improvements. It might take as little as a day, probably weeks, I would predict. Once you got an AGI, it jumps to super intelligence at that point. That becomes the smartest creature on the planet, with all the dangers and possibilities that entails.
They already have AI that can fool humans into thinking it's human. So,
and this is an example of the hope and positiveness that does come with this risk. If you go to a place, I guess it's midjourney.com, or I'm not sure if it's .com, but it's Midjourney.
Yep.
Just type in some text, ask it to make a video for you or a movie for you, and within certain limitations, it will build one for you. It'll make a 3 or 4 minute video for you. I asked it to, about 3 months ago, I asked it to make a video explaining why New Hampshire should be independent from the United States. And it built a very acceptable video, which I uploaded straight to RidleyReport.com, put an ad in it, just like any other video I've ever done.
Nice.
So that's just one neat little thing that's happening, and there's going to be so many more neat little things like this happening if we can just avoid killing ourselves.
I really hope that we can, and that the robots won't decide to kill us as well. Thank you, Ridley, for the call. That's RidleyReport.com. We have another caller on the line. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind? Are you there? I hear some shuffling around. Sounds like somebody might be just listening. All right. Maybe another time. But yeah, I am definitely on the side of being cautious about robots, and I don't like to bring up movies for arguments. I'm not saying that this is like proof of anything, but all my mind goes to is The Matrix.
And dystopian movies. Yeah.
In general, yeah. The Matrix and not Transformers. The one with the guy says, "We will be back." Because we will be back. Free Talk Live will 603-283-6160. It's the Terminator.
That would be Terminator, yep.
603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming right up.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson. The United Kingdom will hold a snap general election on the 4th of July. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced on Wednesday. Standing in the pouring rain on Downing Street, Sunak said it is the time for Britain to choose its future.
Earlier today, I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament. The King has granted this request.
In response to the announcement, opposition leader Keir Starmer promised to stop the chaos, saying the UK has the chance to change for the better. His Labour Party is running about 20 percentage points ahead in the polls. Ollie Barrett has more from London.
We got a sense in those words outside Downing Street of what this election campaign is going to look like. He will point back to what he sees as his successes in government, going back to the furlough scheme when he was finance minister during the COVID-19 pandemic. He'll say that the economic plan is working. He'll ask voters whether they can trust Labour on the economy, on defence, on healthcare and on issues like that. The Labour Party, on the other hand, will say it's time for change, that on healthcare and the economy and other issues the government has failed. But the election campaign is underway. We understand that Rishi Sunak, as soon as Thursday, will be heading up and down the country, and we expect the same from Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, and other party leaders too.
In other news, the families of those killed in the Uvalde school shooting in the US state of Texas are suing the state police over its response to the rampage that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Officers waited 77 minutes before taking down the gunman. The families also say they've reached a $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, nearly 2 years after the tragic mass shooting. Tony Waterman has more.
Nearly 100 state troopers are targeted in the lawsuit, in which the families say officers failed to follow their training. The former principal and former school police chief are also named. Earlier this year, the Justice Department released a scathing report of the incident, detailing what it called cascading failures of leadership, decision-making, and training, and said lives could have been saved if police acted faster. None of the nearly 400 officers who responded have been held accountable. As part of a separate $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, the families will have access to more mental health services, and local police officers will receive enhanced training.
And police are investigating the source of the ketamine that killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. The Los Angeles Police Department says it's working with the Drug Enforcement Administration and the US Postal Service to look into how and why Perry ended up with so much of the drug in his system. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. Are you tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites? Our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. Social.freetalklive.com. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori,
and Riley.
And Riley, you brought in this story from the AP. It says, daily marijuana use outpaces daily drinking in the U.S., a new study says.
It's surprising to me because,
Me
too. Americans love their alcohol, and I realize that there are people who, for whatever reason, whether it's religious, whether it's emotional, whether it's mental, whether it's whatever reason, they don't drink alcohol. It just surprises me that alcohol use is dropping in America and cannabis use is going up because it's not part of American culture.
I think that's due to younger generations.
I think so too, and I think a lot of people are realizing that cannabis isn't as toxic as alcohol.
Alcohol is poison.
Oh yeah. Now I'm not saying it's safer. I think there are some risks when having cannabis. I think that, psychosis could be one of them, especially since cannabis is a mild psychedelic. And if taken as an edible or as a tincture or orally, it can definitely be more intense than just smoking it or vaping it. And so, psychosis can definitely happen, but also, it's, even though it's not part of the culture, it's growing in popularity because it's not as toxic as alcohol and probably a little nicer experience.
I just wonder, what do you mean that marijuana is not part of the American culture? Because I feel like it has been.
It's not part of the American culture in the sense that it's not promoted heavily in movies or TV or whatever. People don't talk about going home every day and smoking a joint, but
I think they do.
Yeah, I kind of disagree, Riley, because
Okay.
there's a whole genre of movies like
Dude, Where's My Car?
Superbad, yeah, Cheech and Chong.
Oh yeah, Cheech and Chong.
It's a little bit of a subgenre.
Okay.
Like, it's not maybe as promoted as alcohol, but I can't agree that it's like 0% part of American culture. Like, it's definitely in rap and
I think alcohol is only promoted more heavily in movies and stuff because of the companies that make the alcohol.
Yeah, I've never heard of a weed company or cannabis being advertised on the Super Bowl, but lots of beer commercials.
Yeah.
That's only because it's not allowed yet, but it will be eventually.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's not allowed at all yet? I didn't even realize that.
I can't. I have, you know what? That's not true because I get ads for marijuana on my podcasts all the time. Like, oh, just get it shipped to your house. It's totally fine.
Well.
Yeah.
Is that CBD or
no?
Oh.
Nope, THC.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
At least it's changing. That's good news.
Well, I definitely think that smoking marijuana is better for you than drinking alcohol. It's not a neurotoxin.
Yeah, it's not. Alcohol is literally a poison. You are poisoning yourself slightly to get a buzz. It's no different than taking any other kind of poison.
And it's like the level of dangerousness. I think alcohol just at a certain point way overpowers any talk of any dangerousness from marijuana. It's like if you just drink like a few too many alcoholic drinks, you could be completely not in control of your body at all.
You could die.
And then you could drink a little bit more and literally just die from the alcohol alone.
Yeah.
Not even just like a bad decision because you're blackout drunk.
Poisoning, right? You can't get marijuana poisoning.
Yeah.
And it has risks, of course, but everything does. Eating a deli meat sandwich has risks.
Of course.
You can get
Everything has
listeria.
risks, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's a funny way to say it. And I definitely think that people can get a problem with drinking or with smoking alcohol, but people can make a problem out of anything. You can make a problem out of
marijuana?
Angry Birds. I kind of have a problem with Angry Birds. Like
sugar. I've noticed people who don't imbibe of any recreational things typically have a sugar addiction
or like coffee or something,
or coffee addiction. Like
or
everybody
caffeine
has
addiction.
That's
or...
a drug though. Caffeine's a drug.
Yeah, but
not
they
really
won't
a drug.
consider it that. Like I have a friend I love that hates drugs, and then a mutual friend will always say like, well, what about caffeine? And he gets mad, that's not a drug, it's a food.
No, it's a drug.
It is a drug.
I joke about that all the time. I'm like, I don't do drugs except for caffeine and nicotine.
Yeah.
So here's the thing to remember
Legal
too,
ones.
Yeah.
is that in Mormon culture, drinking alcohol is not prohibited, or drug or caffeine is. I don't necessarily think that caffeine is prohibited, but coffee isn't prohibited. Is prohibited.
In the Mormon culture?
Oh yeah, coffee is prohibited in the Mormonism. Oh. So in Utah, at least, every street corner has soda shops where you can get sodas, caffeinated sodas. You can mix with a ton of sugary stuff and drink a caffeinated soda and pretend you're obeying God while putting a ton of sugar in your body and thinking you're better than everyone else because you're not drinking coffee.
Yeah, I've asked Mormons the question because it says brewed drinks, right? In the Book of Mormon.
It actually says hot drinks, and that's in the Doctrine and Covenants.
Okay, but you can drink cocoa, right?
Yeah.
Which has caffeine and it's hot. You can drink tea.
It's just how the church leaders. It's just how the church leaders have interpreted it through history.
They just decided they can't have coffee.
They decided because they supposedly speak for God, but we all know that it's just a way for controlling people. And
I heard about like Joseph Smith's wife yelled at him for getting drunk with his friends too much, and that's why alcohol's not allowed.
I don't think that's not what I heard as the story, and maybe that's true. I don't know. I just heard that Joseph Smith's wife was cleaning up after the quote unquote brethren talking about gospel stuff, and they were smoking and chewing tobacco and spitting all over the floor. She just got tired of him having all that mess on the floor and cleaning up after it, and suddenly got a revelation from God saying, "Oh, these things are prohibited."
Yeah. God suddenly did not want them to do those things because his wife got mad.
Yeah, it's just the way. It's just interesting how revelation can work in some churches. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing if you choose not to drink coffee or if you choose to follow a church leader. What I'm suggesting is that be mindful that if you are claiming, "Oh, I don't have to drink coffee because it's bad for you," and here you are chugging down a dirty Dr. Pepper with a ton of caffeine and a ton of sugar, you're being just as hypocritical.
It's the corn syrup.
Yeah. It is the current corn
It's not
syrup.
though. It's not because they say it's bad for you. It's because they say it's against
the word of wisdom.
The word of wisdom.
But a lot of people say marijuana is bad for you, and then they drink alcohol, and that's like the craziest.
I
Alcohol
agree.
is much more dangerous.
Oh,
People
by
die
far.
all the time from either the poisoning itself or making terrible decisions because they can't think. They're like not in their body. It's like a bunch of people just having out of body experiences, but like in their cars and at a bar and on the street.
Yep.
But their bodies are walking around, and we find that normal.
Yeah. It's promoted. There's commercials for it, and people are like, "Yeah, everybody get together and have a drink after work."
You can astral project while your body is walking around.
Like, you're the weirdo if you don't drink. I don't drink.
Yeah.
I used to drink, but like I don't drink now. And anytime somebody's like, "Oh, do you want to drink?" and I'm like, "No, not anytime, but often." They'll be like, "Oh, why not?" I'm like, why do I have to? If you asked me if I wanted a cupcake and I said no, you wouldn't ask why not. I just don't want one.
Yeah.
Some people don't like alcohol. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of alcohol, but I will drink occasionally, like with my girlfriend if we're on a date somewhere and she's drinking her favorite drink, which is lemon drop martini with Tito's vodka, by the way. I do know that. I will have a glass of wine with her.
It kind of sucks because a lot of time alcohol has the most like delicious sounding flavors and stuff. Like I want margaritas often.
Oh, yeah.
I like the taste even of tequila, but at this point, alcohol just hurts me. Like at the beginning of the year, like January, I was like, I should test it out and see if I was just being like a hypochondriac or if I really cannot tolerate alcohol. I drank like most of a Modelo, is that what it's called? Modelo beer. And I just got like a terrible headache. I didn't get any of the like buzz, nice, warm, fuzzy feelings I used to get. Like I think I'm like allergic to alcohol or something.
No, that's what happens to me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just, that's why I don't drink, is because the enjoyment that I get from it is not on par with the suffering I get from it later.
Mine wasn't even later. That's the thing. It's like while I'm drinking, I don't get a buzz.
Yeah.
I feel like I have just done something that's like soaked up a bunch of the water in my cells and I have a headache. It doesn't feel like doing a drug that feels nice anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing too. Like for me, I couldn't get a buzz unless I drank way too much to the point where I was like drunk.
One of the last times I ever got, probably the last time I ever got blackout drunk before I decided I'm never drinking anymore, but definitely one of the last times I drank at all, I drank with Ian. And I was saying like, I don't feel anything after just like a couple drinks. It was just like some kind of seltzer or something we were trying out. I think it was like High Noons. And then in like other people were around too, and they were drinking the same things with us. And I was just like, after just like a couple of them, like after saying I didn't feel any, I was just like, I'm like really drunk right now. And they looked really shocked. And then few hour or an hour, I don't know, later, I'm blackout drunk and throwing up and like crying and telling Ian, I'm like, I'm sorry, you probably hate me and stuff like that, but I don't remember it at all because I was just like, oh, I don't feel anything. I must be able to drink more. And then suddenly, yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I don't really care. It doesn't seem like, oh, a medical problem. I can't tolerate alcohol. It just seems like
don't drink it.
Yeah,
Right.
just cut it out and it's fine.
Yeah, I don't have a problem if people don't want to drink. I don't have a problem if people don't want to have cannabis. I'm not going to force it on anybody. I mean, it's people's choices what they put in their body. And we need to realize that as a people, everyone has the right to decide what they put in their body, whether it's cannabis, whether it's alcohol, whether it's heroin.
I agree.
But, some things I don't want to have, and I'm sure some things Bonnie doesn't want to have that I'll have, and vice versa.
Well, it is really interesting to me. I wouldn't have expected if somebody asked me, do you think more people in America are doing marijuana or drinking alcohol? I would have said alcohol, but this study claims otherwise. It says for the first time, the number of Americans who use marijuana who use marijuana just about every day has surpassed the number who drink that often. A shift some 40 years in the making as recreational pot use became more mainstream and legal in nearly half of the U.S. states. United States states. I don't usually see it written like that. But it says, in 2022, an estimated 17.7 million people reported using marijuana daily or near daily, compared to 14.7 million daily or near daily drinkers. Whoa, it's 3 million people difference.
That's a lot to drink.
It is.
Every day.
Yeah.
What does it mean an estimated 17.7 million people reported? Why would it be estimated if it's like they're reporting it?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I'm guessing it's the way they do surveys, perhaps.
Maybe it's...
Yeah, but how do you... If the people reported it, how is it an estimated number? Shouldn't it be how many reports there were?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
They be able to keep
I don't
track?
understand it either. Who knows?
Maybe they took a sample size and then expounded by how many people are in the United States.
That would make sense.
That does make sense.
And maybe the sample size is just in like Colorado or California. And that's why there's so many. Because that seems like a lot too.
It does say an analysis of national survey data, so hopefully they're doing at least most of the United States and not just like you're saying, like just Colorado where marijuana has been legal for a very long time.
Yeah.
It says in 1992, when daily pot use hit a low point, less than 1 million people said they use marijuana nearly every day. I didn't know that there was like a low point marijuana use in 1992. It's kind of random.
Yeah.
So we do have a caller on the line. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind? Going once.
Bonnie, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
Okay. The only thing I needed to go into, I'm one of the people that listen online practically every night. Well, on the listening line. I talked to you last week and I told you that it's no longer working. For years I have used it. Now it doesn't work. Most of the time, it just says it's offline. And you are doing such a wonderful job assuming all this responsibility. We all love you for it. But please put one of the tech guys on solving this problem because I like to listen, and tonight I haven't been able to hear you at all.
Well, thank you for reporting that. I'm definitely going to try to see if somebody can fix that. I know Mark was getting some correspondence about it on email, so hopefully somebody can fix that for you. I have no idea how simple that is or anything, but yes, we want people to be able to listen however they do, and it would be sad to not be able to listen to your favorite show, so hopefully we can get that up and going pretty soon. As far as marijuana, I think it's a little weird to see the word pot used in like an actual AP News article.
Yeah, I mean,
I keep saying it's like, that doesn't sound right.
It doesn't sound right to me either. I don't know how it got its name pot either.
It's just like, it sounds like my grandma is just talking about marijuana instead of, an article actually written about marijuana, which is like apparently not like a very good word for it either. Some people say, but you could say cannabis.
I like the term cannabis because it's what it is. It's not marijuana. It's not pot. Those are all slang terms and what people know them by, and that's fine.
It's like if it was an article about alcohol, and we were saying juice use. The sauce is up. Like
the sauce. People drink the sauce every night.
People on the sauce every night. It just kind of seems weird.
It does seem weird, and it seems interesting that they want to use the slang term more readily. I guess it's trying to relate to readers a lot more.
They're trying to be hip and down.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Because it sounds less hip than hit.
That's usually how that goes, though.
Yeah, that's true. It'd sound better to just say cannabis. Maybe cannabis is too long. They don't like using a 3-syllable word every time.
Maybe.
And but they do use it here. It says alcohol is still more widely used. Wait, what does that mean? Alcohol is still more widely used.
More people drink alcohol than people smoke weed, but more people smoke weed on a regular basis than people drink alcohol on a regular basis.
That makes a lot of sense because way more people, I'm sure, drink just once a week or less than every day.
Right.
Drinking every day is crazy.
Yeah, but a lot of people smoke every day.
Yeah, but that makes a lot of sense. So it says, but 2022 was the first time this intensive level of marijuana use overtook daily and near daily drinking, said the study's author, Jonathan Calkins, a cannabis policy researcher at Carnegie Mellon University. See, it would just be weird to say a pot policy researcher there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It says a good 40% of current cannabis users are using it daily or near daily, a pattern that is more associated with tobacco use than typical alcohol use. Yeah, most people, I don't know many people that drink daily, and that'd be really sad. It says the research, based on data from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, was published Wednesday in the journal Addiction. The survey is a highly regarded source of self-reported estimates of tobacco, alcohol, and drug use in the United States. So yeah, that's very interesting news. It's just one very specific piece of data once you get to reading what the thing is actually reporting. So it's just only of people who use something daily, of people who use one of these two things daily, more people are smoking daily. But hopefully, there's probably people who have replaced their alcohol habit with marijuana, and that's a lot better for you than drinking daily.
I agree, and more power to them. But instead of leading people toward other addictions, how do we lead them away from addictions? I mean,
you just stop doing it. That's what I did.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep. I used to smoke. I used to drink. And one day I was just like, nah.
With marijuana specifically, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is whenever I stopped smoking marijuana, whenever I stopped drinking alcohol, it was just that it became too not pleasurable for me and I was just doing it anyway. Or that's how it was with marijuana. Or with alcohol, it just wasn't pleasurable and was only painful. So if you're getting some kind of pleasure out of it, I don't know how to convince someone to stop an addiction in that circumstance.
Yeah.
I know Ibogaine can some people have explained Ibogaine as saying it wipes and resets the neural transmitters you have that make you addicted to the substance you're addicted to.
Right.
By using Ibogaine, and I wish that was more accessible to people.
Right. I do too. Let's explain to our listeners what Ibogaine is. Do you know what Ibogaine is?
I don't know exactly what kind of a plant it is, but
it's a plant I know that comes from Africa, and I know that it's administered or traditionally administered in a ceremony, and Ibogaine ceremonies tend to be rather long, like a peyote ceremony might be, because it's a long-acting substance, and like you said, Bonnie, it rewires the brain like psilocybin does, like most of these psychedelics do. So it is kind of a psychedelic medicine. It's pretty intense. And I think people need to realize that when they're starting to work, if they want to go dabble or go down the road of healing with psychedelic medicines, they need to be mindful where they're getting their medicines from. Because some of the centers that give them to them may not ethically source them or may not treat the medicine with the respect it deserves, because I think these things need to be respected. And at the same time, let's definitely find a way to make this more available to people and find a way to grow this and make sure that people have access to these plants that can do a lot of healing for them. And when we do, we're going to have so much better people if we just realize that, we can help each other go through the healing process and be supportive of each other and keep each other away from, harmful behavior.
Right now, it's just illegal to use that in the United States.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
What are the risks of using it?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Honestly, I don't know that much about Ibogaine. I just know that if somebody could just take a ceremony and one-time drug trip and not be addicted to meth, that'd be a lot better than just making Ibogaine illegal.
Yeah, I mean, you can stop doing meth if you just stop doing it.
Oh yeah.
So that's my thing. Is when I was drinking a lot, all the time, every day, way too much, getting blackout drunk. And one day I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore, and so I just stopped doing it. That's all you have to do to stop doing something is to not do it anymore. And so I'm probably a jerk about this, but I don't think that addiction is a real hurdle that needs to be treated from outside. You need to do it.
That's everything.
I agree with you.
Even when you're using some sort of medicine, and I don't mean just psychedelics, I mean any kind of medicine, I think a lot of the time the cure is actually from inside you.
Yes. And if you don't need some other drug to treat your drug addiction.
Yeah.
You don't need anything but willpower.
And I have a friend who did meth for a little while and then just stopped, and she was saying people who don't quit meth are just weak. And I was just that's crazy.
Yeah, you just
I've never
stop
done
doing
meth,
it.
so.
You just wake up in the morning and then you don't do meth.
Mhm.
And that's it.
It's
and then
really
now
crazy.
you don't do meth anymore.
So what are the I wonder what the withdrawals from meth would be like trying to quit meth though.
I mean,
so bad.
if it was really bad, why don't you just again, willpower.
Yeah, call a
slowly wean yourself off.
Yeah.
Just do
Yeah.
less and less and less and less and less until you don't do that anymore.
If Nikki was here, she'd probably be able to tell us because she used to work with people who were withdrawing. But I've known other people, friends of friends, who went off of meth and did it cold turkey and went through withdrawals, and it sounded terrible, just flu symptoms, basically, just being super freaking sick and thinking you're gonna die. You're so sick.
Is it worse than being addicted to meth, though?
Right. It's not. It's you go through that and then you're not. But it's so much easier for me to say than to actually go through. But there's also, hospitals, they'll put you on stuff that'll make it nicer to go through.
I just think it's so concerning that all these hard drugs are so hard to get off of. I mean, I don't know why anyone would want to touch them in the first place.
I can't wrap my mind around just doing meth. I can't wrap.
Me neither.
I
Or
can't
heroin.
put myself in that position. It's so scary. Heroin, I can almost understand a little more because, and I'm not saying I want to do heroin, but I can
don't
almost
either.
understand it more because it's just a nice feeling and you feel a big warm hug. That's not the same as meth. I feel breaking down the walls and driving my car into a ditch. I don't understand the appeal. It's and everyone knows people who do meth are everyone knows that the stereotype of people who do meth, missing teeth and driving your car into a ditch and walking around like a crackhead. People know what that is. So why are there still people that get so addicted to it? It's so prevalent, especially in the United States. I don't know about other places.
Yeah. I mean, even heroin, when people are oh, yeah, it feels really nice. Still, you do heroin, you're probably going to end up doing heroin all the time.
Yeah.
That is a big enough deterrent,
Right.
I think.
Yeah, it is. And then also now with fentanyl, it's one day you could just be doing heroin and then you're dead, instantly. So.
Did you hear about the paramedic who was saving someone's life and ended up in a coma in the hospital from touching some fentanyl?
That's really sad.
Yeah.
It's Free Talk Live. Thanks for listening. You can go to freetalklive.com for more. Peace.
The easiest thing in the world for a reader to do is to stop reading, according to the late, great Barney Kilgore, who became managing editor of the Wall Street Journal in 1941 and grew the paper's circulation from 33,000 to 1 million by the 60s. And he'd be pleased to know that his paper is one of the few that people now pay to read online. Someone else pre-internet who realized that attention is fragile? Motown Records founder Berry Gordy. In the early 60s, when his